Welcome, everyone, to Davos Fingers coverage of the House of the Dragon. This is episode 134, covering episode 8 of House of the Dragon, The Lord of the Tides. I'm Scatty, and with me, as always, is my buddy Matt.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 134. We've got these episodes coming out every Friday. Hopefully you've enjoyed them a little bit more frequently than we're accustomed to doing our episodes, but in keeping with the release schedule of the show, it's been a lot of fun to kind of stay on our toes and do this. As you know, we're breaking down the most recent episode of House of the Dragon, scene by scene, keeping it spoiler-free for those of you that haven't read Fire and Blood, the book upon which this show is based on. But if you have read the book or you just don't care about spoilers, stick around after the main portion of the episode because we are going to proceed into a special segment called Dragons After Dark, where we will talk book spoilers and we will throw out some predictions of what we think might happen in the episodes following this one that we're discussing.
Yes, and if you're interested in our coverage of these events as they occur in Fire and Blood, you know, the true canon. Yeah, I said it.
Ooh.
Check out the Davos Fingers episodes 82 and 83. They have covered pretty much everything that happened so far in the House of the Dragon series. Of course, House of the Dragon are fleshing out a lot more detail in all of these scenarios. So it doesn't line up perfectly. The timelines are played a bit from book to show, but everything basically that's happened is covered in those two episodes, 82 and 83. Way back in our canon, probably 3 years ago now. We're close.
Yeah, for sure. 50 episodes ago? Holy cow.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. I didn't think we'd make it to 5, Matt.
I don't think any of us did.
No.
Probably many of you didn't either.
No.
But to find all of those episodes and more, check them out wherever you look for your podcast. Well, most everywhere. You can even find these House of the Dragon episodes on YouTube. So if you love to chat with us or shoot us a comment, we'd love to hear from you. You can do that on our YouTube channel. You can also send us a raven at wearedavosfingers@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can always find us on Twitter, where we are at Davos Fingers. And you can check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Davos Fingers. All right, Scad, we have another big time leap.
We do.
Shall we leap?
Let's do it.
Let's leap. The episode.
Am I Scott Bakula or are you Scott Bakula?
Oh, you're Scott Bakula.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm Ted. Wait, who are we talking about? What?
Do you not know Quantum Leap?
I do not Quantum Leap.
I was
bringing up Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But Bill and Ted goes back in time. I needed to do Marty McFly. Who is Biff Tannen? I don't know.
Quantum Leap goes back in time too.
He goes all over, right?
For those of you youngsters, check out Quantum Leap if you can find it. It's actually pretty hard to find.
There's a reboot.
Oh, don't.
There is. It just started.
Just go find the Scott Bakula version. It's amazing. It's really good. There's some anyway. Let's move on.
And for those of you that want to be in 2022, go check out the reboot.
Who wants to? Who wants to?
Not me. In one ear, out the other. If I hear Al Michaels talking about it on Monday Night Football, it's probably not going to get watched. Just kidding. I love Al Michaels.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
Nope.
No?
Just
no?
Quantum Leap is a great show. That's all.
All right.
Okay. Rhaenys, the first scene we get in this episode is Rhaenys sitting the Driftwood throne, which is interesting.
She looks great on it too. Just like the way she's like posed on it and everything. She belongs on a throne, that girl.
If there was ever a visual meant to show us, hey, maybe somebody missed out on something somewhere, this is probably it.
It's Rhaenys on a throne.
I mean, even Bela even says later in the scene, she looks quite comfortable there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You think that throne, the Iron Throne, would have cut her if they'd named her instead of Viserys? No.
Absolutely not. She'd cut the Iron Throne is what she'd do.
She'd melt that thing down with her icy glare.
She would. Oh, I could gush about her and Eve Best all day.
We shouldn't, though.
Probably not. I mean,
in this scene we can. She deserves it in this scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get a 6-year skip. Mm-hmm. Essentially, they say it right up front. They don't.
It's been 6 years since I've seen my husband. Right?
No bones about it. Yeah, they make it very clear. So she hasn't seen him because he's been off in the Stepstones fighting again. He has taken a wound He was caught by a trap in which he was going toward a vessel that looked sunken or
abandoned,
not in use, and was then set upon and cut. And now the wound apparently is not really what they're worried about so much as the fever, which burns from within.
Yeah, me after Taco Bell. Oh, wait. Is that what we're talking about?
No, I mean, okay. It's good.
All right. Okay. All right.
It's good.
Sorry for interrupting. Carry on.
It's good. So she hasn't seen him in years, and he's apparently in bad shape, and this prompts Vaemond, Corlys's brother, to do what?
Maybe show his hand too soon. He's bringing up the succession. Yeah. And he is angling for himself.
Yeah. He's wasting no time at all. To which Baela says, my grandmother seems just quite comfortable there on that seat. And I agree.
We should mention that Baela is there because she has been accepted as a ward of House Velaryon. And so, which is interesting considering the rocky relationship between Rhaenyra and Daemon and Rhaenys. So
yeah, a little interesting. I would have maybe expected it to be Rhaena and not Baela. Sometimes that you send a second son or a second daughter instead of the first, right? So that's maybe a little bit interesting. Vaemond is bringing up some dialogue here that is not super foreign to us. He talks about the fact that he is true Velaryon blood.
Yep.
Something that Rhaenys herself made a comment about to Corlys himself in the last episode. He's making the same argument to Rhaenys that she made to Corlys last episode. And so it's interesting to see her kind of shuffle it off to the side, and say this is what Corlys wanted, when he's really just making the same argument she did.
Yeah, I made a similar note that interesting that she will make these arguments behind closed doors just with him, but out in front of people, she's the model of support and family unity. She's going to stick with what her husband says in the end, which I suppose you could admire about her, or at the same time you could be like, maybe you should stand up for yourself a little bit out there, Rhaenys. But she, for better or for worse, she sticks with her husband's wishes, even in the face of a very adamant younger brother.
Yeah, she is the very model of a supportive major wife. Nope, I lost it. That's a musical lyric. That's a musical lyric, Matt. But I failed.
Okay, all right.
I am the very model of a modern major general. You never heard that?
Oh one? Yeah, I do know.
Pirates of Penzance. Come on, man.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't make the connection with the wife.
Well, I didn't sing it, so it's my bad. Go ahead.
We should mention in the book, Vaemond, I think we mentioned this in our last episode, he is one of half a dozen nephews. I like this change of making him little brother. It just makes his desire for that claim to the throne, it makes it more sincere, I feel like. And it feels like a very righteous quest on Vaemond's part, To us, it feels a little villainous because we've been conditioned at this point to, love Rhaenyra and love her sons, Jason, Luke, and we don't want anyone to get in that way. But if you look at it from his perspective, I kind of get it.
Totally. And it's the same reason we understood Rhaenys' argument last episode.
Sure.
You're trying to protect the line of blood of this house. Right. And interestingly, it's not even Rhaenys' line, right? It's Corlys' line, really, of blood that she's trying to protect. But Vaemond has that same argument, and it lives within him. This is a honorable, noble house, centuries old, and he doesn't want it to die out. It doesn't not make sense. It's just difficult. Another interesting note about this is that he notes that Corlys has led them into calamity after calamity, is what he calls it. And it's a little different than the view we get of Corlys in Fire and Blood, which is that the Velaryons were a powerful naval house, but the riches came from Corlys.
Right.
He made them powerful. He made them who they were. He made them a force to be reckoned with. Yeah. And Vaemond is kind of, poo-pooing that.
A little bit. Yeah, it was kind of a high stakes lifestyle, I guess, that Corliss leads, right? High risk, high reward. And, with the rewards comes some losses at times. He says, my brother cares only for the history books in that same, I think it's the very next sentence. And I just imagine Rainey's being like, well, yeah, you got a point there.
Yeah.
I said the same thing just 6 years ago, actually. One episode ago to us, but you're not wrong.
You're not wrong, but we're not doing what you want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
On that note, him rushing into an ambush also kind of checks out, caring for the history books and everything. So
a little bit. I always thought of him more as a traitor than a battler.
I think the book, an adventurer as it would be, but
I'm sure he got in some scrapes, but I never thought of him like leading armies into the fray, like commanding them more like a Tywin from the back. Strategizing, but I never imagined him like out there swinging clubs and swords and stuff.
Yeah, it's fun to see it here, but I agree with you. I imagine him more like a pirate lifestyle, right? Where they're not out fighting engagements all the time, but everyone gets boarded. Yeah, even I get boarded sometimes.
Thank you, Han.
Yep.
I can arrange that.
Could use a good kiss.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out real quick that Rhaenys, we've seen already, is incredibly disenchanted at this whole Game of Thrones thing. We've seen it in her conversations with Rhaenyra. We've seen it especially in her conversations with Corlys. And I had a thought as I was watching this for the third time, is that she's already lost her 2 sons to the Game of Thrones. So when it comes to someone inheriting a prestigious throne like the Driftwood throne, let Luke Velaryon fall on that sword. That's kind of what I thought of at that point. Like, he's not my blood. He can be the sacrificial lamb. So if my husband wants him on the Driftwood throne and it means protecting my granddaughters, keeping them out of harm's way, I'll do it.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. You said lost her 2 sons. You mean Lyanna?
Her 2
Leonor?
Okay, her 2 children.
It's fine. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
misspoke. So what you're saying really is, it's interesting. I didn't think of it. She sees this position as a position, at least in the short term, of a position of peril, one that will endanger the person that sits it. So, like, sure, let's let this one take it, and then
if he wants it, that's fine.
Baela and Rhaena over here, and they can take it later, maybe.
Right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
Now that's challenged later on in the episode, but we'll get to that.
Yes, so we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. Well, the stakes change a little bit later in the episode. Yeah,
for sure.
Yep. So Daemon goes egg hunting. And my first note was, so that's what a clutch looks like.
Right.
The power of television. I'm going to maybe come down on television a little bit later, but, it has its strengths for sure, which is like, I never knew what George imagined a clutch looked like.
I just imagined kind of just like a nice little bushel or something of eggs.
Yeah, like a nest.
Yeah.
A nest. Yeah.
I thought it was like a big dragon turd or something at first.
It's a heat sack.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That scene was really cool because you watch it for like the first 5 seconds and you have no idea what you're looking at. And then all of a sudden you see this tiny figure in the distance coming down the wall. All Spider-Man.
And even then you're like, Daemon has a new hobby. That's great.
Right.
Spelunking.
And you're not even sure it's really Daemon at first. Like, what is this? What's going on? It was a cool scene. I liked it.
I bet it burns a lot of calories, spelunking. Good for him. Get a hobby.
Spelunking. You think he's out looking for eggs for the new baby? Maybe.
I wonder, maybe all 3. For Aegon, Viserys,
and the baby. Yeah. And we don't know if Joffrey's got his egg yet. So
True,
Joffrey made a small appearance in this one. But my favorite part of this was how excited Daemon was when he came out of there and he was talking to the dragon shepherd guys. I forget what dragon keepers. I don't know. He was like borderline giddy when he was talking about it. He's like, Cyrax had another clutch I found, and he had this big smile on his face. And we're going to see a lot of range from Matt Smith in this episode. And this is just the beginning of that.
I agree. It feels like he's I don't know, maybe settled into it a little bit with Rhaenyra, that he's got a role, he understands
I
where he
agreed.
fits, he
I
likes it,
agreed. Hmm.
and he's maybe like contributing in a way he never contributed before, to a family, to a culture, to a I don't know how to describe it exactly, but yeah, he seems, even in this tiny little scene, more content than we've seen him, and that's
Yeah.
maybe we're overreacting to a very small scene, but it felt that way. I agree.
It seemed very intentional how
Yeah,
excited he was and
yeah,
happy and smiling, and
yeah,
yeah. And then he gets a note.
yeah. Notes, dark wings, dark words, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that note essentially just warns. It's from Bela. It warns he and Rhaenyra that, well, that Vaemond is going to basically go make a claim, right?
Right.
Um, and we get that reading in the midst of a scene wherein Jace is learning Valyrian. To be
Hmm.
honest, Matt, I'm pretty surprised they hadn't done this already. Feels like, I mean, everyone knows kids learn languages better earlier. I don't know why they didn't teach him at 5 instead of 15 or whatever he is. But
I wonder if it was him who decided I want to learn High Valyrian. You know,
that's interesting. I didn't
what
think
we,
about that.
I don't know, but we see in this episode, and I maybe saw glimpses of it in the last episode, of him, his determination to be a Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
He is more determined than his little brother, even at this point, to just be like, I am a Targaryen, even though he knows he's a strong, but he is Targaryen. He's half Targaryen too. He's
Yes, he is.
determined to be that Targaryen. And you see it
Yeah.
more in this episode. And I wonder if that was him, would be like, you know what? I'm a Targaryen. I'm going to learn High Valyrian. I'm going to do this and this and this and this. So people can say whatever they want about my hair color, but I am a Targaryen.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, we talk about, and I'm guilty of it quite a lot, of just calling them the strong boys,
Mhm.
because it's just easier, right? It's just easier to refer
They
to them
are.
that way.
They are. That's
But they
correct.
are Targaryen kids. They
Yep.
have Targaryen blood.
Mhm.
They're bastards in the sense that their father is not who everyone thinks their father is, but they're
Mhm.
still Targaryen kids. Um, just not through marriage, and
Yeah.
people hate that. But
100%. Well, 50%. 50%. 50%. Yeah.
100% you agree with me. 50% of the blood.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so I think Rhaenyra and Daemon have the right of this. They know Vaemond is really just concerned with the Valerian line. Daemon says
Mhm.
that explicitly, um, but they still do worry about Vaemond's desire to keep that Valerian line and what it might mean for aligning with the Greens in King's Landing.
That's where I think Rhaenyra is starting to hint at. If it's Otto,
Yeah,
if it's Vaemond by himself, we can work with that. You put Vaemond with Otto Hightower, and all of a sudden, we've
yeah.
got an issue. And it turns out to be 100% correct.
The Valerian fleet belongs to the Greens. That's a problem.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh, to your point about Damon earlier seeming a little more content, we see that here too. He's almost softer with her, whereas with Lena, it was very much like, I'll kiss your belly and everything, but it's my way or the highway. And the minute you express your feelings to me, I'm just going to get up and leave, and I'm not going to say anything to you.
yeah.
With Rhaenyra, she talks about how concerned she is and everything. And Damon says, to King's Landing, then, you know, which may have been on his mind anyways, too. But you definitely see a softening with the two of them. There's a comfort. They're now 6-7 years into this marriage, and it feels that way. Whereas last time I kind of complained a little bit about their chemistry, this marriage feels a lot more lived in.
I agree with you. It's not a note I have, but as you talk about it, I see what you mean. It feels, I mean, Damon has always been, I hate the term, but an alpha, right? Like he's had to be in control and be in charge and be the one making the calls. It feels like he's settled into this partnership,
Yeah.
wherein they have some shared power, and he's happy contributing to that. And yeah, again, just the word content, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That'll all change. So
No, well, I'm not sure. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in season 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's true. They're going to head
or-
to King's Landing now.
They are. In fact, they're going to arrive with some lovely music underscoring it.
We
But
don't talk
remember,
enough about the soundtrack.
it's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ascending voices. I love it. I love it.
Beautiful.
It was a bad rendition. I apologize, everyone listening, but I love
I know
it.
exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I'm not that bad. I'm just like regularly bad. So you remember, Matt, how offended everyone was when Viserys arrived at high tide and no one came out to greet them?
Right.
This is like worse.
Yeah.
This is the future queen. Well, maybe not worse. It's the future queen, not the current king. But nobody at King's Landing comes out. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people looking around when they arrive, and nobody comes out the doors.
Till Caswell throws her a bone.
Intentionally insulting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's said in just the next scene, right?
I mean, you feel like Caswell himself was like, "Oh my God, no one went.
I
better go." And like ran out there, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, no one sent him. That was all him, like walking past the window and being like, "Oh, the queen's here."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
They walk inside the Red Keep and they immediately notice a difference. That's highlighted for us viewers by a huge 7-pointed star right inside the Red Keep. And we'll see a lot more of that religious imagery as we go along through the episode. But it's obvious early on that the two, Rhaenyra and Daemon, that a perceived high tower takeover is well underway.
Yeah, a takeover of the Targaryen culture almost, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have much more about the arrival. Should we just go straight to the council meeting?
Let's do it. Poor Lyman Beesbury just trying to let everyone know what's happening with the finances of the kingdom, and they don't want it.
Yeah, move on.
We've all had those moments, right? Where like you're talking about something that you think is important, and everyone's just kind of moved on, and maybe we're younger than Beesbury and we look around and notice that no one cares, or maybe we don't notice. But we've all had those moments, right?
Absolutely. Like, nobody cares what I'm saying. And then you just sink into, you try to just disappear for the rest of that meeting. But we have the moment that you talked about, Scad. Otto Hightower asks, who was it? It was Harold Westerling, who was the Lord Commander. He comes in and says, Rhaenyra and Daemon have arrived. And Otto says, were they welcomed as befitting their station? And like a little elbow thing, right, Allison? We're so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like they're going for a little dig there.
Yeah, and this is skipping ahead to the end of the scene, but we'll go back. But just while we're on this point, when Allison ends the council meeting, she stands up saying, I must greet our guests. It's like, Allison, honey, you must greet the future queen. This isn't just like normal. It's not like your cousin came to visit you. This is like the future queen. You don't call her, I guess I got to go meet our guests.
But it seemed honest. That wasn't just for posturing. I think that's how she feels.
For sure. But
I think she still looks at Rhaenyra as an underling.
Especially having not seen her in a long time. So.
Yeah. Rhaenyra hasn't put in the work to take care of the kingdom, to take care of Viserys, to help run the kingdom. I believe Alicent for sure thinks of Rhaenyra as lesser than she is.
100%.
And I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying that's how Alicent thinks of Rhaenyra at this point.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No question.
And I'll just jump in real quick. For those watching the video, Sami had a massive coughing attack. I'm a little sick. I'm trying to mute whenever I can. I can't hide the video.
Well, but the good thing about this videos is it shows only the person talking. So that's why I tried to just like keep talking, because then it'll show my camera and hide you coughing. So no one would have ever known if you would have just kept your mouth shut.
Did I just give away the prestige? The prestige. I just gave it away.
You gave it away. It's all good.
My bad. I thought we were doing a split screen thing. Maybe that's.
I tried.
Okay.
Kalasar, if you know how to get it to just show split screen on Zoom all the time, let me know. What else in this scene you got?
Well, a lot. I mean, there's a lot of little things happening here. I mean, they're talking about Lucerys taking over, perhaps, but Thailand jumps right in on it, as almost you get the sense maybe that Otto has complete control. Maybe it's Alicent, but I feel like it's Otto. Maybe has
probably
complete control of this council.
Yep.
Doesn't care maybe about Beesbury, but like he's got basically everybody else or most of them under control. Thailand immediately jumps to question the validity of Lucerys's claim. Not his claim, but his ability. Can he? He rides a dragon, but isn't anything about ships? Has he ever even been on a ship? This guy can he do this job?
You got a little bit of a point there.
It's not a bad point, but Beesbury immediately jumps in. Ability does not alter his claim.
For sure.
Right.
Which I have a mini rant on that. So Thailand, he does bring up a good point, but Luke doesn't have salt in his blood that like other Valarians do. But okay, so we got to look back here at what is happening with Luke, like what you're saying and what Lyman Beesbury said. He's in line to become the Master of Driftmark. That's the title held by the head of House Velaryon, right?
Yep.
Traditionally, they've also held the title Lord of the Tides, which is not the same thing. Master of Driftmark is head of the house. Lord of the Tides is more of like a military title, right? You control all of House Velaryon's ships, right?
Yeah, that's true. Master of Ships is the...
I'm getting there.
Okay,
I'm getting there.
All right,
so that's where things get muddy, is Lord of the Tides is still a Velaryon title, meaning that you're master of all the Velaryon ships. The water gets muddy, though, because the government, the king, the kingdom, the small council has a Master of Ships, like you said, which is a completely different title. However, it's muddy because this title has traditionally almost always been a Velaryon. I looked it up. In Targ history prior to Thailand, there's only been one person, only one non-Velaryon to be the Master of Ships since Aegon the First.
Thailand is that currently.
Yes, Yes. Yeah. So there's been Tyland Lannister, and then before Corlys, there was Manfred Redwine. And every other Master of Ships has been a Velaryon.
Well, so let's be clear, muddy. That's like 2 or 3 dudes. I mean, we're only 120 years into this.
It's like four or 5, maybe.
All right.
So
but yes, in Fire and Blood, they say it has been almost considered hereditary.
Correct.
They say that. Yeah.
So you really have 3 different titles that we're talking about here.
Yes.
You've got Master of Ships, Lord of the Tides, which are Velaryon titles. Then you've got, Master of Driftmark, Lord of the Tides, Velaryon titles. Then you've got Master of Ships, which is a government appointed title.
Yes.
Usually that's all been the same person. Now it's different. So what I'm seeing here, this long diatribe just to get at, is Thailand is looking at someone else to do his job for him. Lucerys Velaryon, he's like saying, can he command ships? Doesn't matter, Thailand. That's your job, actually. That's your job.
Right.
His Velaryons provide the ships, and you may put them in a position of power as Lord of the Tides or whatever. But really, Thailand, you're the one commanding the ships. So
that's funny.
Quit trying to find someone else to do your job, buddy.
I didn't think about it that way. That's funny.
He wants the title of Master of Ships, but he wants Velaryon to do his job for him.
I mean, now that you put it that way, I have to reconsider the episode title, which is The Lord of the Tides, and what that means. I wonder if they are really separating the Master of Driftmark from the Lord of the Tides, or whether they consider them to be
They're not. It's almost always been the same person.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know if I didn't look it up. I don't know if there's ever been a time when the Master of Driftmark was not also the Lord of the Tides.
Lord of the Tides.
I think it's probably seen as the
probably
same
one
thing.
of the same. Yeah. Okay.
But technically,
so did you get some sense from Westerling, the Kingsguard, the head of the Kingsguard, that he is chafing a little bit?
Yeah.
At this? Okay.
I did what you commanded me to.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure I wasn't alone there. We have scenes from Westerling, the head of the King's Guard, interacting with Rhaenyra when she was younger, right? We have a few of them where it seemed like they had a kind of a close, friendly relationship.
Absolutely.
That, but
I think he would have been considered like her sworn protector back
for
before
a
he was
while.
made the Kingsguard, right?
Yeah,
so that
perhaps.
first episode was basically
it. So the other main takeaway, I guess, from this scene that struck me is that I think it's Ironrod says, Jasper Wilde says, that Lord Corlys never made the next owner of Master of Driftmark made known. He never declared it. He never authorized it. He never made sure that everyone knew it.
Yeah, put it in writing. Which
is just awful, because we knew it. I mean, we have scenes with he and Rhaenys where he's declaring it and where he wants it. How could he have fumbled this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, not put it in writing.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless he still wasn't completely sure.
I'm not sure it would have made a difference with this council, to be honest.
Sure.
They could have just been like, yeah, he wrote this 6 years ago. I mean, Tywin says the same thing about swearing oaths to Rhaenyra. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was 30 years ago. Who cares? I mean, so maybe it wouldn't have mattered, but.
Yeah. That's a good point. And also, it's just a little bit weird for the small council to be deciding on the succession of a house in general. So there's not a ton of precedent for that.
Yeah, well, we'll get to some of that with Vaemond later, and the way he phrases things about, the rights of the Iron Throne to rule on a house. Mm-hmm. We'll get to some of that. But just like Viserys and his need to be clear with his heir, it feels like Corlys was not clear enough, at least for this council.
Correct.
In making this not a deal that they had to judge on.
Yeah.
Or it was clear and they just decided to judge on it.
This to be like, it's not that clear. I don't know. I didn't understand it. Yeah. Okay.
Well, full respect for Beesbury.
Hanging in there.
Trying.
Guy trying to do his job.
So now we get a really interesting scene with Rhaenyra and Daemon coming to visit Viserys in his his near deathbed. It's called that.
Mm-hmm.
Daemon
as mostly dead bed.
Mostly dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm not dead yet.
When's your next run? Thursday. There you go, Chase.
I might go for a walk.
Just wait, he'll be stone dead in a moment.
Don't they actually hit a guy and knock him out?
It's that guy.
Yeah.
It's that very guy.
Yeah.
I feel happy.
For those youths watching this that haven't seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, please go watch it. It's high comedy.
Yep.
Until the end, when it gets really terrible and weird.
Right. But that first hour.
The first hour is brilliant.
Pristine.
Yeah. It's about the best comedy gets. Okay, so Daemon waits respectfully outside the bed for a few minutes.
Curtains,
to try to be respectful. He doesn't last long, though. He's got to get in and meddle. But what?
I saw that completely different.
Oh, yeah?
Him getting in and meddling. Yeah. Just the looks on his face, it was almost like he was I saw him as visibly affected by he hadn't seen Viserys yet, but it was like he knew what was coming and he wasn't ready for it. Like you saw him looking out of the corner of his eye, kind of peeking in, and then he'd turn away. Like he had to steel himself before following Rhaenyra in.
I can see that. I thought it was a moment of respect for a daughter with her father for a second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I also thought he knew that Rhaenyra wasn't
ready for him to just jump in and start talking.
Well, no, but also that she was maybe that she wasn't ready to upset him by bringing up the matters of state that needed to be discussed, and that he had the steel to do it. Right?
Yeah.
It's her dad. She doesn't want to bother him when he's sick, and
let them have a moment. I totally see that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it could be a little of both. Perhaps.
Could be a little bit of both. I saw this almost like a progression for Damon in this scene. That's what I'm talking about, the range that I felt like I saw from Matt Smith this episode. It's like he had to steel himself before he went in. And then when he goes in, you just see the sorrow on his face.
Yeah.
Like for the first time, well, maybe since Emma's funeral, you see real sorrow on Damon's face.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he has to like wait a second. And then I like you saying though that he's doing it out of respect for Rhaenyra too. But then it's almost just like, you know what, I got to just say something. And so he just immediately jumps to the business of the stepstones. Like, I can't dwell on my feelings. I don't want to give the impression that I'm here for this sentimental visit and now I'm all sad about you. Like, I just need to get into business and do Damon things. But even as he's getting into that business, he stutters, right? There's like, he kind of stumbles over his words a little bit. And he keeps looking away from Damon or Viserys at first. He keeps like kind of looking down and then he'll look up, then he'll look back down again. And then as the scene progresses, though, it's like he gets more courageous or more used to seeing Viserys in this state. And, you know, by the end of the scene, he's right next to him, giving him his tea. But it's almost like this very gradual progression into from discomfort to, okay, this is reality now.
Even giving the tea, though, that's like an action, right? As an actor, we're taught like there are actions and there are emotions, and the actions you take have to drive what you're doing, but they can also lead to your emotions, right? But Damon, I think he uses the business to shield dealing with the emotion. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have to deal with the emotion if I can just talk about the business.
Absolutely.
And I can give you tea because I'm just giving you tea. I'm not giving you comfort. I'm just giving you tea. It's not comfort. Right. It's just tea. Right. And so I think there's some of that. But you can also, you're right. You can see it in his face that he's trying to contend with this.
Like grapple with this reality of his emaciated brother.
Yeah, and this is also the first look we get at Viserys in this episode, I think.
Yeah.
It's been so long, he says.
Yeah.
And it's been 6 years. And it's like, oh my God, like he just wants his family around, but also he didn't send for them. And so to me, it's like this whole episode is Viserys in a nutshell. Like he can have the moments, he can have the dramatic impact, like when it counts, but it's the years in between where he did fucking nothing.
Yeah,
that affect everything. All this festered, Viserys, while you did nothing. You needed to ask for them to come 5 years ago. Heal this before now. You're waiting way too long. Like if you don't like, I don't want to say you don't get my pity because I do pity him. He's obviously had a really rough time, but like, you can't wait on things like this. If you want your family, ask for them. If you think there's a rift that needs to be healed, heal it. You can't sit on stuff like this. And we'll see why later. We'll come back to it at the dinner scene, but
I agree. Yeah, it reminded me of Rhaenyra and his relationship that we talked about quite a bit in those first couple episodes, where he would wait what turned out to be months or years to have these conversations. Meanwhile, resentment's festering, and then you just have these blow up scenes every 6 months or every year or whatever because you've been bottling it in. Now, we don't get to see everything that happened in these 6-year time period. There's probably a time of sincere anger from Viserys that his daughter and his brother went and eloped without him even knowing.
Yep.
And I imagine there's a lot of resentment over that. Betrayal, even feelings of betrayal, and lots of different things going on there. But I agree with you that 6 years is 6 years. And as Viserys is facing his own mortality now, looking at death in the face with one good eye, man, I was really touched by how he just kept saying Damon over and over again. He said it probably 4 or 5 times. Damon, Damon, Damon. Just, yeah.
Yeah, a relationship just kind of off the rails, right? That could have been better. Certainly could have been worse as well. So the other thing that happens in this scene is that they introduce the grandbabies to Viserys.
And to us.
And to us. I've got some questions about this. I wonder if you have any similar questions.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about this?
Not necessarily. Tell me what
Okay.
I'm missing here.
Okay, well, we don't get great looks at these babes.
Yeah, they're quick.
Very quick. Are they twins? They
I
aren't
don't
in
know.
Fire and Blood, just
No,
to
they're not.
spoil that for
I can
anyone.
see, I'm trying to picture them now in my head.
They look very
Yeah.
similarly aged to
'Cause
me.
Aegon is kind of further back in the scene, and Viserys is forward in Rhaenyra's arms.
Well, they bring them
Uh,
both up, I think.
I think Aegon was always kind of behind, and she's like, "That's Aegon back there."
Okay. Okay.
Almost.
Well, there's a
And
moment where
this
she
is
says, "And this
Viserys.
is Viserys," and I figured they
Uh-huh.
switched them and brought the
It
other one.
it could be. It
So
could
maybe
be.
that's why I'm fooled into thinking they're twins. I'm like, that looks like the same
It's the
baby
same
of the same
actor.
age.
Same
So
clothes and everything.
maybe that's why I'm fooled.
No, I could be too. I don't know. I don't know.
But are they? So my second thing is, are these kids a secret? Does Allison know? Does Otto know that these kids exist? We don't see them again. They don't present them to anyone else.
Right.
Just to Viserys.
Right.
Are
That's
they
a good question.
like
They could be.
in Fire and Blood? It's a big deal, right?
And that's
Rhaenyra names her kid Aegon, and Allison's
I,
like, "Fuck you! I have an Aegon."
one
And
of the few disappointments I had with this episode is we don't get
not
to
getting
see
that.
Alicent's reaction to
Yeah,
Rhaenyra naming her
yeah.
kid Aegon. But
But I wonder. Maybe this is for the spoiler section. I should have saved it. But like, I wonder. I wonder if that's something that will come to us. Is like that
yeah,
they didn't know these heirs even exist.
right. Yeah, that could be. I like that. I like that idea. I hadn't thought of it.
Okay.
Cool. I like it.
There's probably something that makes it clear that they knew, but I missed it. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it.
It was a very sweet scene.
Oh yeah,
Meeting the baby, and when
Patty is just pristine.
Yeah, in an awful way.
Yeah.
When Viserys meets his namesake, that's just so lovely.
A name for a king.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to note, listeners, Aegon and Viserys, blonde hair, whitish hair, Targaryen hair. Don't get a good look at their eyes. They kind of downplay the purple eyes thing in this. But the book makes it clear that Viserys and Aegon are dark purple eyes and pale silvery hair. So,
and Daemon also, the book makes more clear, has finally his male heirs, right?
yep.
Not that you and I don't love Bela and Rhaena, but the book makes it clear that's important to him, I think.
Right.
So now we get a very different scene. Before welcoming Rhaenyra and Daemon, Alicent goes to tend to some chores.
Yeah, she gets a little interruption from a Cargyle.
Chores is too caustic. I shouldn't have said chores. Sorry. That's a really bad way to look at this scene.
Yes, but to your point, Diana, the serving girl's terror leads me to believe that stuff like this has happened before, and Alicent's reputation precedes her. This girl was inconsolable. She was hyperventilating. She was freaking out.
And you mean that there are rumors amongst the serving people that, like, if you get caught doing this, Alicent is terrible.
Alicent,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I did make jokes on Twitter about, like, oh, this is the same bag of gold she gives to every maid that she murders. Like, hold this for a few seconds while we murder you, and then I'll take it back and give it to the next girl.
Right. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say she wears this big 7-pointed star necklace.
Mm-hmm.
It features prominently on her almost throughout the episode. She wears a smaller one later. She doesn't quite feel like a zealot or like a religious fanatic, but she definitely has started using religion as a shield. But to maybe hide some of her deeper rooted transgressions. So I think, Scad, you're of the opinion that she had Diana killed.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped to it probably faster than I should have. Really, really just unburied the lead really fast,
Mm-hmm.
which is less compelling podcasting probably. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, so this girl tells this terrible story about how she was raped. Sorry,
Correct. Mm-hmm.
by Aegon. Alicent. I mean, I think, seven-pointed star hiding her transgressions aside, I think Alicent looks at this girl and believes her and really has compassion for her. I don't think
Agreed.
those things need to be mutually exclusive, but what must needs be done. And I think as soon as she starts in with the what others might believe, as soon as she starts in this questioning about what other people might believe and how they'll think you're behaving, and maybe you were just trying to get, the son of the king in your belly and all that. As soon as she starts going down that line of questioning, it feels like her motives have shifted to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she murders her. I mean, there are some things that happen a little bit later that make me more certain of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the two things really that say it are she says, "I know you won't."
Yeah.
When the girl says, "I won't tell anyone else," or "I'll keep it
Mm-hmm.
secret," or something, she says, "I know you won't." And then she gets the tea, and then she turns around. There's like one line in between the "I know you won't" and "best to be certain." And best to be certain is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it could be, it could mean best to be certain that you don't have a child, but I think she's talking to herself. Best to be certain, I'm going to kill you. And if you watch Alicent in this scene, she is steel. She is hard
The way
in
she's
her,
looking
in the way she's
down at
looking
her,
at
and
her
mm-hmm.
until the girl starts drinking. And as soon as she does, she's very conflicted. Now, also, could she be conflicted about the fact that she's just maybe stealing her, taking away her baby? Maybe. But it feels to me more like murder. And, the righteous Alicent flinching at the fact that she just murdered someone when she holds herself to such a high level, you know, is part of it. And then we have a later scene. I'll just jump ahead a little bit. The later scene we have with
Helena.
Helena,
Mm-hmm.
where she says, "Have you seen Diana? She was to dress the children." And she just runs up and gives her a big emotional hug. That hug is, Helena doesn't know what's going on. That hug is about Alicent wanting comfort, right?
Absolutely.
And Moon Tea, I don't know. My wife has had two miscarriages. They were awful. They were painful. They made her a wreck for a day and a half or so each, where she couldn't do much of anything at all.
And that's just the physical wreck.
And that's just the physical wreck. But I don't
Yeah.
know that Moon Tea a day afterward has the same effect. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure. I guess it's unfair for me to speculate for sure, but it doesn't seem like Moon Tea would keep her that same day from coming to dress the children. Feels like she's dead and that
Right.
Alicent has murdered this child.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my opinion. I know other people feel differently about it, but
Yeah.
it also plays against, I think it was the very last episode before this, where Rhaenyra says, "I can't imagine Alicent committing cold-blooded murder," or something like that. She's on the beach with Daemon walking, and
Mm-hmm.
I talked for a long time. What do you think, Matt?
For many of the same reasons, after I watched it the first time, was sure that Diana dead. She
Yeah.
is no longer alive. I started to talk myself out of it though,
Okay.
on other watches. That being said, I'm still not sure. If it was revealed later on that Diana was dead, I'd be like, all right, okay, fine. Because the way that Alicent talks is very much like, we must be certain. But then why pay her if you're just going to kill her later? Is that just to calm her down a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, in my opinion.
And then why give her Moon Tea if you're just going to kill her? What does it matter at that point?
Well, I think that was poison, not Moon Tea.
Okay, so
I think
it's
she
like
killed her right then.
Tears of Lys or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I have no evidence. That's just what I imagined.
Right. Yeah. So Tears of Lys maybe is in the drink. I thought of that the first time I saw it too. But again, I started to talk myself out of it. Why pay her? Why did she say that to Helena and give her the hug? Well, I've got more on that after we talk about Aegon, but I think that regardless, Diana wasn't staying in the keep. I think she was giving her that money because she was sending her away, and here's your severance package, basically. So I can see it going that way too.
Maybe. Well, you said you have more of the Aegon stuff, so let's go there
with Helena
before I quibble. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she walks in and it's like, this is the boy. If she did murder Diana, it goes a long way to, well, not a long way, but it adds to the pile of evidence of why she's so furious with Aegon. It's like, I just committed murder to protect you, right? Mr. Naked in Bed.
It works either way, though. If it's the 5th time I've done this for you and covered and done the moon tea and paid money, it works either way. She'd be furious either way.
Ticked. And maybe the showrunners want us to be like, did he kill her? Did he not kill her? What's going on here? I don't know. But my lamp just auto turned off, so it's getting quite darker for me.
I honestly, I'm not like, this is not a thing where I'm like, oh yeah, 95% sure she killed her. It's more of like a 50-50 thing.
Yeah, I can see it either way.
My gut says that she did, but I can see it the other way.
Yep. But she's
it's the loose end thing, though, right? Best to be sure. That just reaches inside me and pulls the string.
Yeah.
Makes me think she did it. Aegon himself. Man, this dude has no conscience at all.
Yeah.
Like, he's an empty suit.
Yeah, it's like, I with all her self-righteousness, it's why she's thinking to herself, why do my kids end up this way? I've sacrificed so much. I deserve so much more. And yet I've got this kid right here, right? She squeezed so tight that they slipped through her fingers. She was so focused on
that's a Leia comment,
what she thought, slip through your fingers.
The tighter you grip, the more systems will slip through your fingers.
Exactly. Grand Moff Tarkin. But that's what happened, I think. She was so focused on preparing Aegon to be the king and keeping him, as she thought, alive, protecting him from Rhaenyra, that she lost kind of his soul, right? And that's what I'm talking about with Helena, is that she's just kind of it's almost like she's so mad at Aegon, and what does she say to him? I thought I wrote it down, but maybe I didn't. You're no son of mine, or whatever.
Yeah.
That she's just so angry, and when she says that, there's almost a sense of mourning as well. And then Helena, sweet, innocent Helena, comes into the room, and that's just what she needed in that moment. I can totally see your side too of I just killed the person that you're talking about, but I'll offer an alternate perspective of her mourning Aegon right here, and then all of a sudden, sweet, innocent Helena, a beautiful child. Maybe she's got her quirks, but she's my sweet, innocent little girl, and she just falls into her arms.
That's interesting. I'd like to go watch the scene again to see how she reacts when Helena comes in the room versus how she reacts when Helena asks the question about Diana.
Fair.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how she reacts in those two moments. I do have a note here, kind of hitting a similar tone that you did. Her kids do not share her righteousness. And in my causticness, I said, and it is a joy to watch. Because there's nothing better than the uber righteous to be brought low. There's nothing better. I it's a weakness of mine, I know, but I hate self-righteous people so much.
And it's happening, man. It's happening. Yep. Okay. Should we get to Alicent finally getting to why she left the council meeting?
Yes, with one quick note that I
go greet her guests.
Because there were parts of Aegon that I liked before this episode.
Yeah.
They're gone now.
He is, oh, how the mighty have fallen.
He was
Well,
a
not
little
mighty.
dick, but he was kind of playful and funny and like, sarcastic
Who's
and
a
like, I don't
teenager.
I
Yeah.
don't want this, but like
Hmm.
now he's just disillusioned, bitter and mean
Yep.
now. And
Lost his
well, I mean,
soul
let's say what he is. He's a rapist. So,
for sure.
I like there's nothing about him to like anymore.
No redeeming qualities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Before you got very much the sense that he's kind of a victim of this power struggle and everything, and
Yeah.
now it's hard to feel, even if he still kind of is. He has made plenty of victims himself,
Yeah.
and yeah, he doesn't get my sympathy. Um, then we get an icy reunion
We do.
between Rhaenyra and Daemon with Alicent.
Mm-hmm.
The three are not really happy to see one another.
No.
Uh, another masterclass by Matt Smith, I feel like, in this one. In a lot of scenes, he's just kind of pretending to be very aloof and waiting to come in with a little jab. He's sitting down in this scene while his pregnant wife is standing up next to him.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just feel like this simmering frustration and anger, but he's holding it in, which is Daemon has sometimes been okay at, but he's somewhere between like frustration and fully blowing his top, but he's just like frustrated, and which is also something you haven't often seen with Daemon.
He's been holding it in since they weren't greeted, right?
Right.
And then as he's watched and seen all the Targaryen heraldry ripped down, and as he's had a conversation with Viserys and seen how brought low his brother has been,
Mm-hmm.
and blaming the people in charge of his care for it, it's amazing he's not slicing heads off already, to be
That's
honest.
what I mean, is the old Daemon would go and kill everybody.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But this one is just like, and he's saying his words very much like this. You know what I mean? It's like, is that why you pulled down all the Targaryen heraldry?
Very pointed. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He's mad. They've gotten under his skin.
Yeah.
And so
it's interesting to note that their concerns, Daemon and Rhaenyra's concerns, are kind of similar to Vaemon's. They feel like the Targaryen ancestry and history is being lost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they've been away for 6 years, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it doesn't even exist here anymore.
Right.
Right. And Vaemond is worried about kind of the same thing.
With the Velaryons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You guys want the same things, man. We all want the same things.
Our kids to grow up healthy
Craig
and happy,
Finlay.
to feed them. Yeah.
Yep. But anyways, I don't have a ton of notes about this scene other than I loved Matt Smith's stuff here. I thought it was great.
The only note I really have is at the end of the scene, Rhaenyra asks Alicent who will be sitting in judgment on the claim for Driftmark tomorrow, and Alicent takes no time to answer. She says, mine.
Me. You're looking at her.
She's in charge here. She's essentially the king at this point. I mean, she says she's not ruling, but then out of the other side of her mouth, she says it's my judgment that's going to, and Sir Otto's, she says, it's going to decide this. And that prompts, I think, Rhaenyra to take her late night visit to Viserys, which we'll see later, because she sees the resolve in Alicent's eyes based on this answer. And so good on her for asking who's going to have the judgment, and good on her for perceiving Alicent's answer as what it is.
Yeah.
The
and
absolute
going
truth.
To
and that it's already
DEFCON 6.
That it's already decided and you better do something.
Yep.
Right?
Right. Yep. No.
You need a Hail Mary now.
We'll talk about that. I agree with you very much. Then we move to Jace and Luke reacquainting themselves with the keep. Jace is excited. Luke is very self-conscious of all the looks that they're getting. Jace has moved on from that appearance part. His resolve he hasn't fully moved on because it comes up at dinner, but he's better with the looks that they get. he's resolved to just being a Targaryen, moving beyond the physical. Luke, of course, is still conscientious of his looks. Speaking of looks, we get our first look at grown-up Aemon Targaryen.
Yeah. So before we go there, Jacaerys says it doesn't matter what they think. When Luke is saying they're all looking at us, what are they thinking? Something like that. If I only looked more like Leonor, and Jay says it doesn't matter what they think. And it reminded me of Rhaenyra at the play in the streets when Daemon took her out. It doesn't matter what the public people think. I'm the queen. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Their opinions do not matter.
Nice callback. I like it.
We call that a reach around.
Yep, on this podcast. Yep.
You want to talk about Aemon and the fight?
I do. The book says that despite the loss of his eye, Aemon had become a proficient and dangerous swordsman under the tutelage of Sir Criston Cole, but remained a wild and willful child, hot-tempered and unforgiving. These two are going at each other in the yard. They're like swinging to kill.
How far do you want me to go, Matt? Because
I've never stopped you before, buddy.
This is... I know, listen, I've seen feedback online that people disagree with me on this, but I do not believe Criston Cole would be sending no fewer than 5 of these strokes in deadly range of Aemon's face. An air that Alicent and Viserys, well, Alicent at least, and Otto, I suppose, have been making sure comes of age and becomes this warrior for 18 years. He would not be throwing a full-on metal ball with spikes on the end at his face over and over again in case he tripped and leaned into one or misjudged the distance or something.
No helmet, nothing.
No help. Get a wooden ball with no spikes on it, that can simulate the weapon, get a helmet on him, and train as if this is real.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at with this scene, is they're swinging to kill.
Goddamn sense. It makes no sense to me, Matt. It takes me completely out of the scene. I know they think it's impressive and it's like, ooh, Game of Thrones action and battle and no.
Looks better on tape. Yep.
Fucking stupid. It takes me out of the scene completely. I'll just leave it at that.
And mine is just more tempered. Like, I thought it was dumb. Like, why are you like, slow down, dude. Like, this is a prince you're swinging your ball at.
I will say, though, Aemon's attitude is hardcore. I love to see it. He doesn't even look away from Criston Cole, who he's holding at sword point when he says, nephews, have you come to train? He just knows they're there with his one eye. Like he somehow in the middle of the battle, he spotted them, which is amazing. Right. And it's pretty badass, that moment.
Yeah. You don't like how much you're kind of like, this guy's kind of cool. Yeah. He looks great. He looks awesome. Great. It's
the same way we feel about Daemon sometimes.
Great jawline.
Very good jawline.
Yeah. Yep. Well done, Prince. You'll be winning tourneys in no time. I liked that little job from Criston Cole. Then we get a little tiny scene of Vaemon shooting his shot, right? Behind closed doors.
Yeah.
He gets an exclusive meeting prior to the public hearing.
Yeah, they don't all get that, do they? Did they all get a private session to make their claim first?
I don't know.
To make deals?
I don't know.
Doesn't seem fair.
Maybe that was when Alicent was with Rhaenyra and Daemon. I don't know.
And
I gave you a chance.
I love Alicent's unease.
Yeah.
I don't like doing this behind closed doors. Okay, but I guess for the good of the realm, I guess we have to.
For the good of the realm.
I guess so.
And
Alicent.
How you're talking about how Otto has the small council under his thumb. He repeats basically word for word what Tyland said in the small council meeting about, you want a child at the command of the greatest fleet in Westeros, go right ahead. Again, that's Tyland's job, not Luke's job.
It's like there are pamphlets.
But whatever. Yeah. But
so essentially in the scene, Vaemon promises the fleet to Alicent if they give him the Driftmark throne.
Correct.
Sorry, the Driftwood throne. My bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And Allison, I confess a certain uneasiness now that this is at hand. Yeah, well, sorry.
You just murdered a girl, in my opinion.
Allegedly.
Like, you don't have any conscience unease that you need to worry about right now.
Right. I think she does feel a little bad, but yeah. This is great for these two parties, just to state the obvious. Vaemond gets Driftmark, and the Hightowers get to cast further doubt on the legitimacy of Rhaenyra's sons. Rhaenyra was right, what she said to Daemon back on Dragonstone, of if Luke was called into question, Jacaerys will be called into question, which means I'll be called into question. That's why the Hightowers are willing to do this with Vaemond, is it gives them an in. Because she's also, right. You question Luke, you question all of them.
Probably less important, but they also get a fleet.
And all the accompanying riches of House Velaryon.
Yeah.
Which is, I think they've said, is the richest house in Westeros.
Yeah, I think in Fire and Blood, I don't remember what they said in the show. In Fire and Blood, they say that it became, for a time, the richest house in Westeros.
Yeah, right up there with the Lannisters. And
the Hightowers.
The Hightowers, yep. So
moving on, now we get Rhaenys and Rhaenyra kind of having their own little back council meeting.
And we must point out, Scad, where does this scene take place?
In the Godswood, we're back, Matt.
You missed it. It's back,
I'm so excited. I don't know what this means, but I'm doing it. It's a guy unscrewing two light bulbs.
I was going to say, I think you're changing some light bulbs there, buddy.
Yeah, I've missed the Godswood. It's been 2 or 3 episodes.
It really has.
They try to prove me wrong, but now we're back.
Yeah,
and I'm happy we're back.
Yeah, and you see Rhaenys
Godswood on Driftmark, so here we are.
You see her kind of like gazing at the Godswood thoughtfully, or at the Heart Tree, I should say, almost like her gods have failed her. Maybe she'll try these guys for a while. I don't know. I'm joking.
Or she's legitimately talking to Bloodraven or Bran.
She's a green seer.
Is that? I feel like that was a spoiler, but that's like way. Yeah.
I think that's tinfoily enough that it could belong here.
All right. Fair enough. So she brings Rhaena to see her grandmother. You get the sense that
soften her up a little bit.
6 years or a few years. Rhaenys doesn't hold back. She accuses Rhaenyra of essentially of murdering Leonor.
Yep.
Rhaenyra fights back and says she loved Leonor.
I did not order his death, nor was I complicit in it. I swear this to you.
Sneaky language.
Yep, super sneaky.
Sneaky language.
It's kind of the language that she used in this same location, the Godswood, when she was denying things about Daemon with Alicent.
A similar note. Lying in the Godswood again. This is a pattern for Rhaenyra.
Oh, goodness. Mm-hmm.
But I wondered if she had to. So the lie to Alicent in the Godswood that we're referring to, when she was lying about basically, going out with Daemon and what happened there and how innocent it may or may not have been, and what happened afterward with Kristen, she kind of had to lie. Like, had she not lied there, she would have been in a lot of trouble.
Sure.
I wonder if maybe she could have just told Rhaenys the truth here.
I mean,
there would have been minutes, maybe hours of real anger from Rhaenys about this.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, Joy, her child, lives.
Yeah.
Right?
But
and so
he lives, but you still took him from me. He might as well be dead. I'll never see him again.
Yeah. It's fair. But you went from a place, it depends on how she processes, right? Everyone processes differently, maybe, but she went from a place
at least he's alive.
My child is dead to a place of my child is alive to a place of he's alive, but I'll still never see him again. Is that better than dead? I don't know.
Right.
Feels like as a parent, I would think yes, but also, I'd still be angry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if she's been able to find closure or make peace with it.
Sure. I mean, probably as a parent, I'd be like, okay, I'm on the next train out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go find my kid.
If I have to trek
Because
all across Essos to do it, I'll do it.
probably do that, right?
Yep,
I mean,
for sure.
I can't imagine what else I'd do with my life that would be more important than
Right.
finding my wayward kid. I mean, I don't know. Hard to
Yep.
say, maybe.
I agree. This leads us back to a conversation that we've had about moments in this show before of it's been 6 years and you two have never had this out like this already.
Yeah.
Like you've arranged for Bela to be your ward. Like you've obviously talked.
Yeah.
And this hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, there's a very offhand comment earlier between Damon and Rhaenyra where they say, well, she's taken Bela in out of respect for Lyanna, not because she cares about us.
Right.
So they kind of half address it, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, these time skips, Matt. I mean, I get why they feel like they have to do them, but it really goes in for, I don't know, I don't want to call it lazy storytelling, but just gaps in storytelling.
Yeah, you'd think that this would have been something that Rhaenys would have confronted the two of them with much earlier.
Yeah, but you don't have time for all those conversations. How do you squeeze them in? It's hard.
Yep. I completely understand the need for the time jumps. I'm not poo-pooing those. It just made me wonder, like, you guys haven't had this conversation like 5 years ago?
Yeah.
This is just happening now, and how it must have eaten away at them for all that time.
Yes. So not to be missed in this scene, I barely got any notes about it here, but Rhaenyra makes an offer to Rhaenys.
She's great at these betrothal offers, isn't she?
Pretty
mutually beneficial
good.
betrothals. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to be good at them when you're offering like the queen consort as the role. It's a pretty good olive branch to give.
Yep. Queen of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah.
We mentioned this in the past 2 episodes, I think, that this does happen in the books. However, it happens much earlier when they are very young. Toddlers. Yeah. Jace was 4, Luke 3, the girls 2.
I think I made the same note last time. I was like, they're like 6. And then you gave the
like 4, 3, 2. Scad, come on.
You fix it every time. Thanks, Matt.
I don't remember who Adam of Hull is, but you know, I got
Silverwing.
Yep. More on that later, like seasons later. But yes.
So if it wasn't clear, she tries to betroth Jace and Luke to Bela and Rhaena, and Rhaenys doesn't really accept, and that's interesting. She kind of hems and haws and says, "Well, I can't really stand up to them on this.
Yep,
we're still behind. They're still in control. I can't take this."
And Rhaenyra,
I'll be punished for it. Essentially, it's what it feels like she's saying.
Rhaenyra straight up accuses Rhaenys of coming to King's Landing to claim the driftwood chair, whatever, for herself. And Rhaenys doesn't deny it.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure she's wrong about that.
So her mind will obviously change a little later. But
we'll get there.
Yeah, again, going back to that same note, Rhaenys has already lost 2 kids to this. She's very jaded about all of this stuff. And
yeah.
So what is she going to do about it? Well, we're going to see in a moment. But for her, Rhaenys must stand alone, like you said, after they bring Rhaenyra down, after the High Towers bring Rhaenyra down, and she's sure they will. And, you know, frankly, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but that would have happened had Viserys not shown up in the throne room. They would have brought Rhaenyra down.
It's such a weird thing to. Well, we'll get to it when he comes.
But Rhaenys, in short, she's out to get hers at this point. And I don't blame her too much.
But she's also playing to the power dynamic, right? Like she knows what score is. She's not going to make a claim like Vaemon's about to when the power shifts, even though he knows he's behind and won't win, right?
Right. Yep.
She's going to play it smart.
Yep.
That's who she is.
And she's not, and oh man, she's got those eyes too. I just love her eyes. Best eyes are just, they say so much. Ooh.
She's great.
Love it. Anyways.
Vote for her in Song of Madness, everyone. Come on.
Massive crush on Eve Best.
I've been saying it for like 4 years. Well, not his best, but Rhaenys anyway.
A Song of Madness is going to be awesome this year, this next year.
I have some thoughts about that. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it, but the tides are going to change. It's going to be amazing.
Here's what I want to do. We'll talk about it right now. Fire and Blood characters, but nobody from this area in the dance. Just take all the House of the Dragon characters out. Come on, it'd be fun.
It would be great.
It'd be fun.
Annie's going all the way.
Annis. So now we get Rhaenyra, fresh off her conversation with Alicent, wherein Alicent has revealed that she's the one that will sit in judgment on the claim to Driftmark, goes to visit her dad, Viserys, who is, again, on his near deathbed. She asks him about their duty to hold the realm united against a common foe, and if he really believes it. Do you believe this?
Because this is freaking hard.
It is. And he doesn't really answer her that question, right? He's there, he's mumbling, but he doesn't really answer that question.
Yeah, he doesn't. And she brings up a good point. Your dream, or Aegon's dream, is all about uniting Westeros. And we are pretty darn divided right now because you named me your heir. Just, I thought I wanted it, but the burden is a heavy one. It's too heavy.
Which is interesting because I don't feel like I ever got that impression from Fire and Blood. I felt like Rhaenyra in Fire and Blood always wanted it and frankly believed she deserved it, that it was her right, that she was entitled to it. And that was part of her downfall to me, was that she felt entitled and she didn't have to work for it or earn it or deserve it.
I get the impression that she got a taste of the good life on Dragonstone, like we talked about. It seems like they settled into.
Are you talking about House of the Dragon, or are you talking about Fire and Blood?
House of the Dragon.
Okay.
That they settled into a really nice, comfortable life on Dragonstone. Her and Daemon had a good relationship. Kids were great. Daemon and her were able to have children together. And then in the back of her mind, she knew she's set to become queen one day, but she got the taste of just a good life away from politics for a while. And then all of a sudden she's thrust back into it. And she's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
You know, it's overwhelming. She's been there for a day and already she's having these types of conversations and it sucks.
But also, I'll get torn apart for it a little bit, but it should suck.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be easy at the very least. It shouldn't be easy.
If you want the reward, live the pain to get it. You don't get vacations for 6 years and then just come waltz in and be like, okay, it's mine. Like, she hasn't earned, oh man, I'm going to get eaten alive. She hasn't earned anything. She hasn't done anything to earn being queen of Westeros.
Correct. Absolutely. That's indisputable, especially over the 6 years. As she was on her way, she was being included in small council meetings and stuff like that. But you've been gone.
Basically, your whole adult life.
The Hightowers have been running the show.
And so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's so much hers. I'm not saying
she's the heir.
She shouldn't be the heir and she shouldn't be queen. I'm saying her actions have not befit the person that should be heir.
Right.
I still think she should be. She's who Viserys named. She should be heir. She should inherit. But she hasn't earned it. Let's not kid ourselves about that. She hasn't done jack shit for like over a decade.
And
to help this kingdom.
And at this point, she's like, I've tasted that good life. And man, if this dream thing isn't real, I think she's sincerely thinking to herself, I'll let Alicent have it. I'll go back to Dragonstone. If this isn't a real thing, if this isn't deeper rooted in our great-great-great-grandpa, then I'll go back to Dragonstone and Daemon and I will raise our kids and we'll be happy. I think she's thinking that right now. She's at least teetering on that edge.
I agree. And that's an interesting departure, I think, from Fire and Blood, which I don't ever get that impression about.
Right. Yep.
Did Viserys, I like it. It's definitely a more human element than we get. Sure.
Right. Yep.
It's interesting. Did Viserys in this scene, I couldn't quite hear him, maybe. Did he call her his only child?
Yep.
Good Lord.
Yep.
I mean, I know he's struggling with lots of things here.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to make light of that.
Yeah.
But I think it does, given what we know about his relationship with his other kids, it's a big failure from Viserys.
Mm-hmm.
He never bonded with his other kids. It led to, and I think it led to, at least partially, sorry everyone, at least partially to his kids resenting Rhaenyra and her children.
Right? Absolutely. Yep. Sins of the parents. And Viserys isn't immune to those. We often pin it on Alicent, and she certainly played her part. But Viserys' inaction with his children, I think, played a big part too.
We'll come back to that too at the dinner scene.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And we definitely get glimpses of the love that Viserys continued to have for Aemma after her death. And in his mind, he had children later, he was married later, but Rhaenyra was the child he had with the love of his life. And that holds true.
Yeah, but yeah, and the last
doesn't make it right. It doesn't justify what he says. Not at all. But doesn't justify the way he's treated Aegon and Aemond and Helena over the years, but that's where his head is at. This
neglect has impacts on the kids and Alicent both, and it's going to have major repercussions.
The whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing. But like we alluded to, this is a woman at the end of her rope. She's forcing Viserys to see this through. We mentioned Alicent spurred this, and this conversation she just had with Rhaenys spurred this into action too. And so Rhaenyra in turn is going to spur her dad into action.
Yeah, by saying, defend me and my children.
Yeah.
If you want me to be in control, defend us.
Stand the F up. And
he's a mess, but I think he hears this. I think it echoes in his troubled dreams in his state.
Absolutely.
And it rattles around in his brain so that the next morning he's thinking about it. Mm-hmm. If Rhaenyra hadn't done this, I don't think he makes the walk. I don't think he plans the dinner. I don't think he does any of it.
Agreed. Okay. Agreed. Yep.
Keep it that way.
We disagree so nicely, though.
Yeah, it's true.
Then we get the scene that's just hard to watch, right? King Viserys being tended to physically.
Mm-hmm.
That leprosy, if indeed it's leprosy, as Paddy Considine revealed it was. Constantine. How do I say his last name? I fumble it every time.
I think it's just Considine.
Considine. Okay.
Or Considine.
Let's pick. Yeah, Considine. Considine. I'm going to say Considine. That's what I'm picking.
I mean, you're saying it without an accent, so it's wrong regardless.
You're right. He is a mess. That poor guy.
He is.
Man. He is eaten alive.
And he requests a dinner, and Otto says, Your Grace, it's morning.
It's like 9:00, man.
Come on, Dick. Like, he knows that.
Yeah, right.
Like, it really gives you a sense of how placating and just that they are with him. Like, they're just...
But also condescending.
Condescending, yes, that's a better word. Yeah, exactly. Just trying to undermine
handling
his intellect at every case.
Right.
And like, at every turn, it's like, well, you thought it was 10 minutes ago. It was actually 40. Mm-hmm. Don't you feel stupid?
You're so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just making him second guess everything about himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's
at least I get that impression. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not much more to say about this scene, although to note, he refuses the milk of the poppy.
He does.
And we're going to get into this next scene, so why not jump it just a little bit, even though we'll rewind the tape. But when he entered that hall, I missed it the first time I watched it. I didn't put two and two together that he refused milk of the poppy beforehand. And I even thought to myself, as Viserys is walking through the hall to take the Iron Throne, and I'm like, that guy is hopped up on milk of the poppy to be able to be doing this. But from what we get here, he wasn't.
Yeah, perhaps not. Yeah.
Right. So should we get to that, or do you have anything else about this? The
only thing I had is just a note. The family dinner concept is I don't know how big a deal it is in other cultures besides the U.S., but it's kind of a big Sunday dinner around the table, get everybody together that can come, and we'll share a big dinner and kids, and it's a little bit crazy sometimes, but it's fun. And I just get the sense that Viserys, while a bad king, would have been a great kind of family, a patriarch in a family
No question.
that didn't have so much responsibility tied to
Yeah.
it.
It's a
Right?
shame
Like,
he had to be the king.
yeah.
It's a
And
shame.
he probably still would have looked the other way on like some squabbles that he should solve, even in smaller scope,
Mm-hmm.
But I think his heart is in the right place a lot of the time. I don't want this to turn into a defending Viserys episode, because I've got a lot of problems with the way he does things, namely too late, right? And
Of course.
trying to
Putting
do it
things
in a
off.
grandiose manner instead of
Yep.
dealing with them the day they should be dealt
Just
with.
consistency. Yeah.
But his heart is good, and he wants his family to love each other. That's all.
Which
move on.
is an opinion this podcast has held since, I think, the beginning of these House of the Dragon episodes.
I held it before House of the Dragon.
We've talked about Viserys' good heart.
I felt that from Fire and Blood, that he is just a man with a big heart that wants to have fun and enjoy his family, but can't handle the responsibility of a kingdom.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The Fire and Blood Viserys is very much the jolly ruler.
Yeah.
And Paddy Considine's Viserys is a little more tempered,
and thoughtful, and I dare say battered and haunted, frankly, by responsibility.
Yeah. Shall we proceed to the throne room?
Please. Yeah.
One of two major scenes of this episode.
Yeah.
Notable that Rhaenyra is wearing black, Alicent's wearing green.
Notable in the sense that it's constant.
Rhaenyra, I feel like, isn't always in black.
No, yeah.
But she was noticeably in black in this episode. You're right about Alicent. She's got one color. She sticks with it.
After that blue dress, she kind of...
Yeah.
After that one.
Uh-huh. And she tried out red for a while, back when she was
a little bit
trying to fit in with the Targaryens, but then she went full green. Vaemond is invited to make his claim.
Yep.
This is about the future and the survival of my house. I don't know how much more we need to talk about it, but you can be sympathetic to what Vaemond is saying here, even if, we've been conditioned to cheer for Rhaenyra.
I think Vaemond's argument makes total sense to Vaemond.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the grand scheme of peace in the kingdom, maybe it doesn't make sense, but if you're looking at it from a Valerian blood perspective, there's not much of a better option than what Vaemond is proposing.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get to another option that I think makes some sense, that kowtows to Rhaenyra's request of her non-Valerian blood children, frankly, taking control, that eventually there's going to be Valerian blood back in the mix, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But from Vaemond's perspective, I totally get it. This is it. Like, if the Targaryens were in a similar place, they'd be arguing the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. He's a male. He's, the second son, which I like that they did that here. In Fire and Blood, Vaemond is one of many nephews. And in this, they raise those stakes by making him Corlys's brother, his next youngest brother. And I like that, raising those stakes a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, just to put this back in Viserys's perspective for a minute, and why Paddy's been backing this goal the whole time. Vaemond isn't really wrong. I think we just said that. From his perspective, willful ignorance of this clear false claim of the strong boys not being strongs and instead being Leonora's blood, it's damaging his house. It's killing his house. It's willful ignorance, and we should all be able to call it what it is, see it for what it is. But the reality is that to Viserys, he's chasing a bigger goal. He's worried about the Song of Ice and Fire. He's worried about his line not being called into question. He's worried about greater stability, right? And so Vaemond's concerns, while legitimate, are secondary.
Right. Yep. Sorry, bud.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but I don't care.
And it's all in the bag
Yep.
until the
Yeah.
doors open.
Yeah. So I guess I jumped a little bit forward. They're about to rule in Vaemont's favor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The,
They're going to let Rhaenyra say her piece, just to
yes.
say they let Rhaenyra say her piece.
But
And I
Otto and
think she
Alicent are for
knows that.
sure going to give it to Vaemont. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yep. And the doors open, and there, stooped over,
Vigo
stands
like.
King Viserys, right? You know, I mean this as a compliment. He reminded me both of Master Splinter in the Ninja Turtles movies and also Yoda in Attack of the Clones when he comes walking in to challenge Count Dooku, kind of stooped. You don't expect much, not physically imposing, but you see a resolve to him that's just like, I'm here and I'm going to do something today. Fire and Blood said, it's of course the opposite physically about King Viserys. The book said King Viserys had grown extremely fat and red of face and scarce had the strength to mount the steps to the Iron Throne. You see him with scarce the strength to mount the steps to the Iron Throne, but of course it's for a different reason. So the opposite end of the physical spectrum.
Right. So he does this walk as he comes in. I said it's Vigo like when he parts the huge doors, but it's not like that at all.
No,
Because he walks in like a hero, and Viserys walks in like a hero of a different sort of, so I suppose, but not swagger and strength, but calm,
resolve,
confidence, and power and resolve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 minutes and 37 seconds, Matt, that we are glued to Viserys walking from the top of those steps to the Iron Throne before he sits down.
Really?
Yes, 2 minutes.
I would have given it a minute.
Seconds.
Wow. Okay.
A long time. I timed it.
Okay.
And it's just asking the audience to just wait for this to happen, to drag it out. And it's wonderful television. It's, I mean, like you said, you wouldn't even have guessed it was a minute. It's amazing to watch it happen because it's not, because your eyes aren't just on him. You get shots of Alicent, you get shots of Otto.
That's the thing. Yeah, the reactions to him walking.
All these people, and those are interesting. Alicent cares. I've been hard on Alicent in a lot of these episodes. I've been harder on her tonight, but I've never said that she doesn't care about Viserys to some degree.
Correct.
She does. She cares about him, like as a caretaker, at least as someone that she's bonded with to some degree as a human, right? That they share some things in common, that they've dealt with hardship together. You know, I think she resents him in a lot of ways, but she cares about him still.
They're that couple that's been married for a long time that get annoyed with each other and bears resentment towards each other. We saw this very much the last episode. Remember how she was kind of like really physically like making him comfortable, or she's like throwing the blanket on him and then like flattening the pillow behind him and everything. And they feel like they've been married a long time in the sense that they're kind of, you know, snippy with each other sometimes, but also very much dedicated to each other in some sort of way. And you see a bit of that with Alicent for sure.
I say this about my parents, and I hope they never listen. They've threatened to recently, so I hope they don't actually, because if they heard this, it would maybe crush them. But I'm not even sure she likes him. I'm not even sure she likes Viserys anymore at all. But she still cares about him.
Right.
Like those are different things. And, you know, my mom has had to deal with my dad, who's been in some really rough spots in the last, frankly, 8 years or so physically. And she's had to take care of him. And I think, you know, some days I think she resents him, like how much work she has to do.
Right.
She still loves him. She still cares about him. But some days it's like, I really don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some days.
Yep.
And I think you can see that with Alicent in some scenes, but you can, as he's walking and just struggling to get there, I think you can see that she cares. Otto is pissed.
Yep.
Otto doesn't have a whole lot else going on other than this fucking guy ruining my plans.
He's just like, crap. Yep.
Rhaenyra, I don't know. I feel like it's awe almost. And thanks.
How is he doing this? He came.
And appreciation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. But still, like, is he even going to make it across
Yeah.
this walk? You know?
Yeah. So he heard his daughter, right? He heard his daughter that night, and he decided, I've got to make an entrance. I've got to do this. I've got to settle this so it goes the right way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And he gets to the stairs. He drops his crown, and who's there to help him, Matt?
Beautiful scene with Daemon picking up that crown, helping him the rest of the way, placing the crown on his head. Stark contrast to the last time they were there and a crown was involved, when Daemon was kind of flippantly talking about, you know, how he'd been named the king of the Stepstones or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very different feel. So
Yeah, I don't have nearly as complicated a relationship with my brother as these guys do, but I know if my brother did something like this to help me get through something, I'd be ready to bleed and fight for it, man. Like it was a big gesture from Damon to come do this.
yeah.
And yet, I'll just say it from my perspective, as terrible as Damon is, it still felt natural. It still felt like something Damon would do.
Especially in this episode.
He does love his
just
brother.
from what we see in this episode.
True. Yeah. Maybe like a shifted perspective. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It worked.
I didn't read too into the articles that brought this up, but apparently it was revealed that moment was ad-libbed. That Viserys' crown had fallen off by accident, and Matt Smith took the opportunity and did that, and they decided to keep it.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard Patty, I think it was the interview with Patty that someone shared with us, where he said he like ran down the stairs to the director and fought for it to be kept or something. But yeah. So anyway, he gets to the throne and he sits in to deal with this matter of succession for Driftmark, and kind of condescendingly says, like, what are you fuckers doing? This has been settled. What is happening?
Right.
Why are we even talking about this? It's a great moment, to be honest. Like, this old guy who's almost dead is like, why are you wasting my time?
Right. I don't have a lot of time left and we're going to spend it on this.
Yeah.
I will sit the throne today. And
go ahead.
Were you going to Rhaenys?
Yeah.
Him turning it over to her. You know, we've seen him be a little progressive in some ways, naming Rhaenyra his heir and all this. And he's just like, you know what? Let's talk to the person that knows best, woman or not, in Westeros. Rhaenys.
Yeah, it's also just
think.
A bit pragmatic, which
sure.
I know Rhaenys is, but it's just like, nobody can speak to this unless someone knows that Corlys has changed his mind. So, Rhaenys, got anything? Like, this is settled. I already said this is settled. Is there some reason to believe it isn't settled? Mm-hmm. And then he offers Rhaenys to prove that.
Yeah.
So it's pragmatic, progressive. I agree, but just kind of very matter of fact. Like, let's see if anything's changed.
Yeah, it's something a king would do.
Yeah.
What do you think? And I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. Made Rhaenys, kind of change her mind and go with supporting Luke?
Well, I think Rhaenys turned Rhaenyra down from the get-go because she knew it didn't matter whether she supported her or not. Alicent was going to rule against her. The proposal to wed the two wasn't going to change anything in Alicent's mind. But as soon as it was Viserys making the choice...
As soon as Viserys was on the throne, was that what did it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think Rhaenys is a smart person. She's like, oh, I have someone in my favor making the decision. Great. Let's do this. And oh, by the way, now that the winds have changed, before Rhaenyra can retract her offer, let me make sure I cement it. Right?
Yeah.
Because she's savvy.
Yeah.
This is my girl. She's savvy.
100%.
She knows what she's doing.
I thought of that too. Like, she's like, I've got the whole court here in front of me. I'm going to say it right now in front of everybody.
Yep. Yeah. And I wish I remember. I can't remember whether we get a look at Rhaenyra when she says that, if she's smirking or like, oh, that woman just pulled one over on me, or whether she's just smiling.
We do. And I feel like it's okay. Like, the look you got from her was, yeah, this is fine.
She's like, okay, I wanted it anyway.
The look I did notice was Bela. Bela looks downright pleased as punch. She's like, yeah, let's do this.
I feel like all four of the kids, maybe not in this scene, but at some point I feel like all four of the kids seem totally content with this.
Especially with the dinner scene.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
But I gotta say, no, I won't say. We'll leave it for Dragons After Dark.
Okay.
So it settles.
So it's decided. And Vaemon's like, all right, I'm going to go down swinging. He loses it.
He does. And it's noble in a way, I suppose.
Kinda. Yeah.
He's stating his case. He's not backing down. He's insolent about it, though, right? I mean, he essentially says
he knows he's done.
He doesn't say it in these words, but he basically says the king doesn't get to decide what happens on Driftmark. We do, which is not really the way kingships work. So take a seat.
Yeah. I mean, it should be just the house gets to decide, but sorry, when you live in this kind of government, that's the king can do whatever he wants.
I mean, we're going to get to it, but the bastards moment is kind of like the moment that we feel like seals his fate. But really, just saying you don't have say over what happens at Driftmark is treason enough to kill him.
Yep.
But before we even got to the bastards thing, Shelty and I, Eowyn and I both were like, oh, he's got to get executed for this.
He's dead.
I mean,
yeah.
There's no way he gets out of this.
Right. Yep. And then you call the kids bastards, and then you call Rhaenyra a whore. I mean, you're on your way out, pal.
Yeah.
You get
the little moment of Daemon saying, like, say it.
That's the old Daemon coming back, right?
Yeah,
we get this range of Matt Smith, and then it's right back to old Daemon here. Say it.
There is a note. I don't know if you saw, there's a little moment where Daemon looks at Rhaenyra, and she looks back at him and just kind of like nods.
Yeah.
And he looks back and he's just waiting. Like, somebody on Twitter, I think, said, like, she's just saying, like, if he says it, go for it. He's like looking for permission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there it is.
There it is.
Like,
okay.
And it kind of goes along with the book. The book says she, Rhaenyra, dispatched Prince Daemon to seize Sir Vaemond, had his head removed, and then this doesn't happen in the show, fed his carcass to Syrax. So that kind of happened. She dispatched him. Nod.
Surprised they didn't do it, to be honest. They usually kill for these scenes of dragons doing it.
I thought the same thing. I
wouldn't
thought
have
that
fit
would
in
be
the courtroom, I guess, but
no. But
I can't complain. I loved the scene. I thought the scene was really well done.
Oh my goodness.
You get a really, charismatic, frankly, and what's the words? Sticking to his guns and belief structure, Vaemond really going for it and having no regrets. And then the result is what the result is. But I really liked the scene.
Yeah, the result is he got a more merciful death than he was probably expecting at that point. He went into this conversation probably knowing that his death might be a slow, long, prolonged death of a traitor. And he got off real quickly.
At least a hanging,
right?
Something. They do beheadings, so maybe
probably tongue removed first, though.
Oh, yeah, true.
So,
which in Fire and Blood, that does happen, right? So Vaemond gets burned, but then his family still, even after that, travels to King's Landing and sues for rights to Driftmark, and Viserys does take their tongues out.
He does take their tongues out. Yeah. We get some little things during this scene when he cuts the half of his head off and leaves the tongue there. Oh my gosh. That's great, right?
Oh.
That's exactly it. Great impression, Scad.
I do, I'm an actor.
But the look Aemond gives Daemon there of just hero worship, he wants to be Daemon so bad. And we get that first look there. It's almost comical. Helena covers her ears when it happens rather than you'd think she'd cover her eyes. She covers her ears.
She knows that tongue is still wagging. She doesn't want to hear Vaemond say anything.
Some people are more affected by sounds than sight and things like that. So it could totally be that. But
also, Helene is just
I smiled. Yep, she's just so sweet. I thought it was just like Like she just heard the most vulgar song in the whole world or something and didn't want to. But
Yes.
covers her ears. I thought that was sweet. Yep.
And Rhaenys's reaction we get in the next scene.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Let's talk about her feelings.
Well, they could have just thrown this out. They really could have, and probably nobody would have said
it was it's prime deleted scene, cutting room floor stuff.
Because Rhaenys is not a major character. I'd call her a secondary character. Mm-hmm. She's not someone we've spent a lot of time thinking about her relationships outside of the main characters. But what we have here is someone that has been summarily executed for his opinions that she kind of brought to bear, right? So had she not gotten up and done exactly what she did, Vaemond may have been able to leave in peace.
Right.
This is a man that she's had. I mean, he's probably been a companion of hers to some degree for 30 years, having dinners together, vacation time, whatever, discussions, late night discussions with a glass of wine, hundreds, if not dozens, if not hundreds of nights together where they just talk, right, with Corlys. And he was not a stranger to her. And she's basically just kind of overseen his death and almost assured it with her actions. And watching her reaction here is just beautiful.
It's a really lovely scene. You said it more eloquently than my notes do. He was a total pain to her, but he was still family. And she knew him for a really long time.
He may have been more pain to her than companion. I think that's fair.
That's the definition of family sometimes, right? But I do think you do see those feelings. I think you do see those feelings of grappling with the fact that he's dead. He made the choice in the end to make that outburst. He could have chosen to swallow it and go quietly back to Driftmark and still live as that second son. And he made the choice to seal his own fate. But she is grappling with that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's her husband's brother. I mean, imagine those of you with a husband or spouse that has a sibling, imagine getting them killed.
After, like you said, a 30+ year marriage.
Yeah, it's not her fault necessarily, but she had a hand in it. And, that's hard.
They certainly weren't united.
It's hard.
She says, "A stranger has visited me more times than I count. I assure you he cares little whether my eyes are open or closed."
Yeah. Yeah, she's had a lot of loss in the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
On to happier moments, then, to the family dinner.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. We get that opening shot of Alicent and Rhaenyra seated there's a seat between them that's going to belong to Viserys. It reminded me so much of that, the piece of art in Fire and Blood with the two of them seated next to each other. They were switched in that one, though. I went and found the picture. Alicent's on the right side.
And it's 20 years earlier or something.
And it's a lot earlier. Yep. That was at a different feast.
Yep.
This feast is in the book.
5-year anniversary, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
This feast is in the book. A feast was held on the first day of 127 AC. The princess and the queen were both commanded to attend with all their children, but it does say, in a show of amity, each woman wore the other's color, and many declarations of love were made to the king's great pleasure. So I like that they kept them in there, green and black colors, but we did see this other stuff.
Yeah, but the declarations of amity definitely happened to some degree. It took Viserys making his own first.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They seem stoic to some degree until he comes out and plays his last gambit, right?
His final plea, his Viserys' last stand, I called it.
How good it is to see you all tonight. You did call it. And a bond between houses. He calls out Jace and Luke to be wed to Baelin and Rhaena. They all seem happy with it. And he's just kind of really going into how he holds them all dear. And if they could just look at him as their father, their brother, their
Grandfather,
grandfather,
uncle, I guess.
husband, uncle,
Uh-huh.
that they could just get along a little bit.
Right.
And pulls his mask down to show the face of what he's become. And man, it's very touching. And he kind of, it feels like he just, in that one speech, just kind of brings down the barriers that
Yeah.
are present amongst all of these characters. So many conflicts. The Eye from Aemon, all the years of Alicent and Rhaenyra fighting, Daemon, the conflicts that he has with Viserys, and Otto, and just all of these things. He just brings them down in one speech, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's still, to me, good job, but could you maybe done this for realsies years ago with many tinier speeches?
Yeah. Yeah. There certainly was an impact made with this one, and with him
Yes.
taking off his mask and it was very much, it was jarring. Like, it just slapped, especially, I don't think it affected the kids as much, at least not all of them, but it
Yeah.
slapped Rhaenyra and Alicent across the face. It was just exactly what they needed. And
We've grown so distant from each other, he
yeah.
says. Oof. I agree with you about the kids, by the way. They seem less affected. And I would say specifically his own kids,
Right.
Aegon and Aemond. Less Helena,
And less
maybe
Jason Luke and the Velaryon twins.
less affected, you
Very
mean?
respectful. No, less,
Oh,
I should say more affected. They're
more respectful for sure. I don't know how emotionally affected they are. They're being respectful of his message.
mhm.
But I think they even said it in the after show stuff, but like, they just don't have a sense of this history. They've been apart for so long. They've been fed these lies, the
Just the
angles of the
poison.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, the angles of the truth that their parents have wanted to teach them. And so they don't really, these words, I think they just have less impact,
I agree. Yes. And Bela and Rhaena have never really known him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They grew up across the Narrow Sea and then on Dragonstone. They've only seen him probably a couple times ever.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're
yeah.
right about Jason Luke though, and Bela and Rhaena to some degree too, I think.
Right.
They sense the tone at least. Even if they don't really get the feeling of it, and they don't have the past memories to link it to and be like, oh, he's calling back to a past that was better that I understand. Even if they don't get that, they get the tone, and they're
Mm-hmm.
respectful of the tone in what transpires afterward.
Right.
But Rhaenyra and Alicent are the targets of his message mainly, and Daemon probably.
And he nailed it.
And he
Viserys
nailed
did.
it.
He nailed the
Yeah,
targets. He hit the
absolutely.
targets.
Totally.
Rhaenyra's toast does not come off as lip service to me.
No.
It comes off as incredibly sincere, recognizing this is what Alicent has always wanted to hear. She's wanted to have her sacrifice, her perceived sacrifice, validated, right?
Yeah.
She just wants to be noted for what she has done and noticed. And Rhaenyra did that.
Yes.
You know, you've
Yeah, she
done,
totally did.
she says, you've done more than I have. She gives her that credit. And
Yes.
then what'd you think of Alicent's return remarks? And Rhaenyra's too.
I believed it too. So I
Yeah.
believe Rhaenyra's. I think Rhaenyra knows that she's been absent. I think she knows that she hasn't done a whole lot to, kind of like what I said earlier, has not done a whole lot to deserve the position that she has by decree from Viserys.
Mm-hmm.
And she realizes the work that Alicent has put in to kind of keep this realm together. I think she
Yeah.
sees that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think she meant it.
Me
I think
too.
I think she could have said more. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alicent really was moved by it. I think that she gives perhaps the most important statement in these toasts, which is "You will make a fine queen," which is essentially a
Yeah.
submission. It's essentially a submission that I'm going to let you be queen,
Right.
and that's a big
That's
move.
huge.
It's a
That's
big
huge.
move, and I would say, in Fire and Blood, we don't get any of this in Fire and Blood. There's no amity between these women past about that
paragraph
5-year
that I
mark.
read.
Yeah, about that 5-year mark where they have this dinner. Basically, right after that, they start growing in resentment toward each other, and they're never friends. After that, they weren't friends before that. I mean, Allison was a girl, or Rhaenyra was a girl, and Allison was a woman, essentially before that. And so they didn't have anything to bond about. One was a kid, right? And they didn't do that in this show, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons. Now is not the time probably for my rant, but I think that was one of the reasons that they made that change, right? To show a closeness between these characters that made a moment like this mean more.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to come up, Matt, with words that sound good and that sound meaningful and that people can rely on in a moment that they might reflect on later and change their mind about. But when there's a history between these two characters that Allison and Rhaenyra have together, these statements can mean something. They can call back to a history you have, to a friendship you have, to a relationship you have, and they can actually fix things.
Yep.
If they're meant, right? If they are deemed to be honest, right? And so in that way, what the show has done by making them closer friends as in their youth is they've made this scene believable. And so
I love it.
It's a really good job. Well done, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So this feast does happen in the books, but like I read, it's in a show of amity, right? And many declarations of love were made. The reading comes off as very skeptical and very cynical. And this was so much more emotionally impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, in that scene, we're never meant to believe that they're moving the goalposts at all.
And in this one, after Alicent says her part, after she kind of makes her toast, you see both of them kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Like you see like their shoulders kind of slouch almost like almost like that weight was lifted. It's kind of powerful. They both feel a little awkward. You can almost see like, whoa, we just kind of bore our souls to each other after having treated each other like ice monsters for the past however many years. But wow, that felt kind of good at the same time to get that out.
And so, yeah, I think it's 3 stages, right? It's like, oh my gosh, that's awkward. How do I do this? Oh, I'm relieved. Oh my God, I have to keep being a human now. I've been acting this way for so long.
Where do we go from here? Yeah.
What do we do? Right. And I think that's where this scene turns a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that we get the sense that the feelings the mothers have don't really trickle down to the children. They're like, oh, nice messages or whatever. But you've told me to hate this guy forever. Is this just a joke or what's happening? I still hate this guy.
The kids aren't all right. Who's my note?
The kids aren't.
And it's the parents' fault. The parents seemed ready to move on, but unfortunately, they'd already ingrained that hatred in their children. And those children don't have the history with each other, the warm history that Alicent and Rhaenyra have. Yeah, Aegon grew up a little bit with Luke and Jace and Aemon too. But no, that history isn't there. It's overshadowed by this hatred that's been ingrained in them for a long time.
You have to be carefully taught, Matt. And that's from South Pacifica musical, which I know you love musicals.
Man, Scad, you are just...
I think I've used "you have to be carefully taught" in previous podcasts.
You probably have.
At least one. But the message is you don't come by hatred naturally, and the theme in South Pacific is more about racism and elitism in culturally. But in this case, it's not that different. They've been taught here to hate these people, that they're wrong, that they don't deserve their station, that they don't deserve their place, they're bastards, that we're the expected heirs from Rhaenyra's side, right? They've been taught forever to believe these things. And you get the sense maybe that Jace and Luke are a little more amenable to just being polite about it, but you still get the sense they hate him.
Sure.
I mean, let's not forget, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let's not forget that everything seems like it's maybe going to go okay until Luke is laughing at Aemon about the pig
thing. Yeah.
Right. Like it might have worked out had that happened. Right. But anyway,
there would be the little japes back and forth with
Yeah.
Aegon teasing Jace about sex and
Yeah.
everything, but
Yeah,
Viserys
Aegon.
wasn't
Oh my
noticing any of
gosh.
that.
Aegon. Oh my gosh. I mean,
Oh,
within seconds.
Jace owning him with that toast though was great. He played it
How?
perfectly.
Oh, you mean just ignoring the jab?
Well, and then he toasts him and kind of like punches his shoulder
Mm-hmm.
playfully, and then asking Helena to dance. Oh, it was chef's kiss good.
But again, like, had he just what if instead of asking Helena to dance, if he had gotten up to ask Helena to dance and Bela had gotten up to ask Aegon to dance?
Aegon to dance. Yeah, for sure.
How much better would that have been? Like if they were just on the same page and not just winging it, right? It's almost like the parents are just so irresponsible with this. Like they could have, I feel like they could have helped somehow.
Yeah, they could have been like making little like, no, you ask her,
yeah,
you do this, you
something.
you do this. Like,
I mean, Alicent did
Jace
nothing to
isn't
stop Aegon's little taunts, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
And
she couldn't hear
Jace,
them. It's hard to say, maybe.
yeah, she might not have. You know that Viserys didn't notice any of it.
Yeah.
Jace isn't trying to like mend fences. Let's not call him like Mr. Altruistic good here. He's trying to take jabs at Aegon in a more subtle way and stoke the fire a little bit, you know?
Yes. And Aemon, for his part, is, I mean, say what you want about the guy, but he's all in on his immediate family role.
Yeah.
He is the protector of this family. He knows what his role is. He stands up as soon as there's a challenge and makes everyone aware that he's going to attack anybody if anything happens. He's the protector. He's the battler. He's the defender. He knows his role here.
Yeah, he's grown from, last episode when he's the one that sold Aegon out, right?
Yep.
Vhagar. I think having Vhagar has contributed to that. Having the biggest dragon out there.
Definitely. Cock of the walk, I think I called him last episode.
Cock of the walk.
So we get Helena's toast.
Love it.
Which Otto approves of. Helena's toast basically says, hey, to Bela and Rhaena, you're going to be married soon. Don't worry, it's not that bad. Most of you just ignored, unless he's drunk sometimes. It's like, wow.
You get this. You hate Otto, but he's so sweet with his granddaughter. You get 2 moments in this where he's like, good job. To her, like, you did good, kid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's different with granddaughters, man. I don't have granddaughters, but I know the way like my dad treats my daughter and everything with they're just the most precious things. And he's so abusive and manipulative to Alicent and always had been. But with a granddaughter, you can do no wrong with a granddaughter. Like she can do no wrong. It's his little sweetheart. And it's so funny to see this mask come down when he's around Helena. You only see it happen twice. You see it when he's giving her the good speech. And then you see it when she's dancing with Jace and he does like a little side clap for her and everything, like egging her on. Like he's just this sweet little grandpa. And that's how grandpas are.
But I also don't want to gloss over the fact that during this toast, Helena is painting for the entire family a very bleak existence with a husband that mistreats her completely.
Yep.
And everyone's just kind of like, oh, yeah.
Putting it right out there. Yep.
No one does a thing. Mm-hmm. She's basically abused by this guy. And they're just like, oh, well.
We'll talk about it in Dragons After Dark a little bit, but no one listens to Helena.
Can't wait for that conversation. I will have nothing to add, but I can't wait to hear what you have to add.
It's not a ton, but no one listens to Helena, and maybe they should. I smiled a lot during this scene.
Me too.
It's happy.
Was the offer to dance, was that rude or okay or somewhere in the middle?
I think it's sweet. It's double-edged. He is definitely poking at Aegon.
Yeah, okay.
But he maybe that's the primary reason for him to do this. Remember, Jace is like 14, 15 years old in this. He's a boy's dick measuring with another boy, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Helena's that girl that, as she
Never
just
gets to
admitted,
dance.
doesn't get to dance. She's the girl that's standing off to the side and doesn't ever get asked to dance.
Yeah.
And this is really sweet.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And it made her night. That smile on her face when she was dancing with him, the giggles and everything, it made her night.
Yeah.
Until, of course, everything goes downhill in a couple minutes. But I smiled so much during that dancing scene. And you've got Rhaenyra laughing. You've got Alicent kind of stroking Viserys' hand and looking at him in a very caring way. Like you mentioned, that caring is there. You got Otto clapping for Helena. Everything, the Bela and Rhaena are making googly eyes back and forth and everything with Luke. And I guess Jace is dancing. So, but it's a very happy moment. And then the smiles die. This is the last happy moment, maybe.
Did you get the sense that Viserys, in his watching of this dancing, excuse me, thought at all about the fact that had he just demanded that they accept the marriage proposal 8 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever it was when Rhaenyra made that proposal of Jace to Helena, had things just have gone more smoothly? Had he just said, no, we're doing this?
Yeah. I think there is a little bit of regret for not having done things sooner, acted sooner.
Yeah.
Because the other feeling is contentment. Like, and almost victory. He's like, oh, I did it. Mm-hmm. I did it. Like, things are okay now. He gets to go to his grave thinking things are okay. And because he misses everything that's going to happen after this. Mm-hmm. And I think
everything that's going to happen that he caused.
Sure.
In his drug addict, we'll get there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets to go to his grave thinking like, I fixed it. That worked. My final stand was successful. Everything's okay.
I think I agree with you. Yeah.
I should have done this sooner. So there's that. Yeah.
Should we get to Aemon's strong toast?
Oh my goodness. Which is taken out of the books. Yeah. Or the book.
It is. So not in the book is a pig being served to Aemond. And we're talking a 13-year-old joke here.
Correct.
That I didn't even pick up on the first time I watched it. Like, why is he snickering at him?
Mm-hmm.
And then I got it later. But a 13-year-old joke or so of, the pink dread, this pig with wings that they presented. So now they've put a pig in front of Aemond at the table, and Luke can't help but snicker. I was like, come on, dude. Come on, man.
Things were going so well.
Keep it together. Do you think Aemond would have done anything had he not snickered at him?
No.
You don't think he'd have done anything?
Nope.
He was content to let the night go?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have, things weren't fixed.
Yeah, right.
I think he still
wouldn't have done anything then. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he would have made that speech and done what he did.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
So Luke doesn't do that in Fire and Blood, for those that want to like Luke a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But so the toast, you want to go into that?
Yep.
So I don't have the whole text written, but Aemond stands up and gives a toast to the very wise, very loyal, I don't remember the exact words, but it keys on very strong boys.
He's going to say it. They pause for a few seconds. He pauses, and you're just like, he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Don't say it. I think Alicent even looks at him and says, don't. Like she even knows, right? Do you not think yourself strong? He asks them when they quibble with his toast.
What? Let's compliment.
Man.
Oh, man. After he says it, I think there's a little moment where, Jace punches Aemond and it doesn't really affect Aemond. It shows kind of, what a warrior Aemond has become. He kind of just absorbs the punch, doesn't do much to him. And then he just kind of pushes Jace over in a humiliating way. And Jace turns around to go back to him and Daemon steps in front of him. And all he does is look at Jace. Mm-hmm. He just looks at him and Jace steps away like he's done. Mm-hmm. And that to me shows that Daemon has been involved in this family now and in the raising of these kids. And I'm not saying he was abused Jace but he's asserted dominance as a father figure to the point that he can just look at Jace and walk him off with a look. And he did that. And then he turns around and looks at Aemond and he does the same thing.
I also want to give Jace a little bit of credit. Like he gets this insult thrown in his face and he goes right at him.
Yep.
Despite knowing that Aemond is
bigger,
definitely his better in battle and combat. And I think I don't know the years now, but in this telling of the story, he's at least a few years older, right?
Sure looks like it.
And so good for him. He goes after it. He doesn't hold back. And you can only be brave when you're afraid, as Eddard would say. So Daemon also kind of looks Aemond back with a look.
Right. And walks
He's
him
just
off.
like, come on, dude. What are you going to do here? What are we dancing? Because you don't want that. And I saw posts on Twitter about, Daemon looks terrified. I'm like, I don't see that at all.
No, that's wrong.
Watched it a couple times. I don't see Daemon. I don't think Aemon's really afraid either. They're kind of measuring each other. And there's kind of, when Aemond breaks and not the time now, maybe, or something. But Daemon's the king here of.
Aemond looked a little bit scared to me.
You think?
Like he broke his resolve. Like he was looking at him like, I'll face you down, hero of mine. But then he gets to the point where he's like, okay, I'm fine. I'm out.
He is the one that leaves, right? And so sometimes that's looked as a weakness in those situations.
And Daemon kind of looks at, after he's walking away, Daemon kind of lets his guard down a little bit, like, this mother effer right here.
Yeah.
He could be something. He could be something.
Pretty impressive.
He's got potential. This kid's got potential.
I wonder if somehow he's mine. Did I fuck Alicent at some point?
Oh man. Yeah. I think he sees a kindred spirit.
So we've been just kind of going moment by moment here, but the summary is that this dinner's falling apart. We had tension. We had Viserys kind of removing the tension with this awesome speech. Awesome, such a terrible word. With this touching speech that breaks
like
down a lot of
15 minutes apiece.
Yeah, 15 minutes is generous, perhaps. Rhaenyra and Alicent both bought in with their own speeches that kind of helped with that, and the kids didn't really get it, and they kind of introduced some conflict, and now it's basically full-blown anger. Rhaenyra and Alicent are left to pick up the pieces, and Rhaenyra's like, maybe I should take my kids away. They don't get it. I'll come back.
Right.
I get the sense that what she's saying is, I'll come back and we'll keep sewing this up.
We'll keep dialoguing.
We'll keep
business
putting
terms.
this. Yeah, we'll keep putting this together in a way that makes sense for the kingdom and for us as a family to make sure the Targaryens are united. Like I'm reading a lot of context into it, but I feel like that's where they're trying to go. They're holding hands. They're touching each other. Alicent says, "We would love that if you came back.
We would love that. The king and I would love that." Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
So it feels like they're still on. It's almost like they're like, kids, like they don't know.
Yep.
Like, don't worry about this. We'll figure that out. We can still make this work based on the healing we had earlier. Right. So the scene, it's interesting because usually you have a scene like that. If it breaks down, it means something big. It doesn't really in here, right? Like they're saying, we'll get over this. We're still okay. We're still on track to maybe make this happen. Right.
100% agree with you, Scattywick. It's very touching, this scene, and it shows that Viserys' speech on who it was meant for, you mentioned it hit the target. It did, because even after their kids blowing up at each other, Alicent and Rhaenyra are able to face each other, holding hands, and be like, let's keep this going. I'll come back. And, saying, I'll come back on Dragonback, to me indicates that it's urgent for her. Rhaenyra wants to fix this. It's not like, maybe I'll come back in a week, when the boat's ready or whatever. I'll get on my dragon. I'll fly right back here and we'll fix this,
Yeah. And also I don't want to dilute the importance of their speeches to each other, because
correct.
I think Viserys' speeches broke down the barriers a little bit, but had they not done their own speeches to each other, it would have gone nowhere.
Right. So the evening, net positive was really a success up until, the next scene, but up until Alicent's putting Viserys to bed. But Alicent of even an hour before this would not be telling Rhaenyra that she would want her to come back.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Scad. Do you think Alicent is seriously entertaining this idea of, okay, I'm done fighting. Rhaenyra can be the queen?
I think she is.
I mean, I think she is too.
I think she is. I think a lot of things happen in this episode, and I don't know, maybe this is it's probably not Dragons After Dark. I think a lot of things happen in this episode that make her maybe think, guess what? Maybe my kid isn't really cut out to do this.
That's my thoughts exactly.
Aegon is a piece of shit. Like, maybe he shouldn't be in control, right?
And also look at what my power grab, what my lust for power has done to this family. Look at what it's done to my son.
Yeah, I mean,
look
I don't
at what it's done to
blame
both of my
her
sons.
entirely, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of blame to go around. But yeah, I think maybe she recognizes her part in it. And I think, we've talked before about whether her real concern was the safety of her kids, right? Well, guess what? They're all adults now. Like, are they really in danger? Are they going to work through this? Does Rhaenyra really, does she have it out for them in blood? Really? I mean, I never felt that way, having, whatever, but
you and I both.
She did for a while. Alicent feel that way. She declined the marriage offer because she felt like it wasn't good enough. They've all grown since then, right? And I think maybe she sees, like, Aegon's not cut out for this. My husband's about to die. Let's bring this family together, and fine. If Rhaenyra is ruling, okay, let's see how we can all do this together. Yeah. Kind of like a Rhaenys argument.
Right.
Do I need to go through all this to try to put my kid on the throne who sucks? She knows he's a rapist. She knows he's bad. I don't get the impression this is the first sack of gold she's given out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she talks about, you and I are more alike. In her speech, she said, we're more alike than maybe we give ourselves credit for. Remember, Rhaenyra was asking the same question to Viserys earlier in the episode. Is this worth it? Like, is everything we're going through worth it? Well, this is another thing these two women have in common, of Alicent now thinking to herself, as we're inferring, is this worth it? Like, is everything we're going through, man, this sucks. So
I think B-Word and Steph might appreciate something Alicent says. We're both mothers.
Yep.
That's one of the things Alicent leads with in her speech. We're both mothers. Like, we can both look at this, from that perspective.
And that's when healing starts, is when you're willing to find common ground, when you're willing to do it.
Remember episodes ago when we were like, Alicent says it's all about the safety of her kids, but it isn't, because she was just offered their safety and she declined it.
Yeah, we detected hints of Cersei there.
But she's grown now. Like, she this understands. Is years later. Yeah. Anyway,
people change.
The bridge. Yeah, people change. People understand the stakes more. They realize that their own claimant sucks sometimes.
But yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, is she really ready to give up the kingdom? And I kind of feel like she was. Yeah. At least ready to start talking about it and entertaining it. Like, this feels right.
We do have this, before we get to the Viserys, Alicent end scene, we do have this tiny little scene with Mysaria and Talissa, which is the servant who apparently is informing on her actions within the Red Keep. I don't have really anything for this. This servant is telling Mysaria something.
Yep.
In my opinion, she's telling Mysaria that Alicent is murdering girls.
There could definitely be that. It could, if she's got eyes and ears in on what's going on in dinner, she can report on that.
Could be. Yep.
She could report on Vaemon Velaryon being dead. But I think, with her closeness to Alicent, it feels like she would be reporting more on what's going on with the queen. So
I didn't actually look to see if she was in that dinner scene at all serving.
She wasn't. Like that. Yeah. Well, not that they didn't make it apparent that she was there. Yeah. So
then we get the money shot, if you will, if I can put it crudely.
Man.
Money shot, Matt, is the shot in porn when it's all right. Let's move on.
No, I need you to finish. I don't know what you're talking about. Just teasing. Yep. This is a kid show,
A
Scad.
small part of me thinks that you watch more porn than me. Small part.
Keep that small.
Okay.
My daughter, my 13-year-old daughter Leia, asked me today, actually, Dad, can I listen to your podcast? And I just said no. She's like, why? It's just you and Scott talking. I was like, no, you just can't.
No.
Which, her being 13 years old probably just made her want to listen to it more.
When you're 18.
Mm-hmm. That's what she said. When I die? When can I listen to your podcast?
Yeah.
Later.
Later is a good answer. So we get Viserys in his bed, mask off, trying to sleep. Alicent coming in to comfort him. I don't know. Maybe this is something she does every night. I don't know. It's
felt
interesting.
Sweet. It felt like this would be something a servant would do. And
it's not something I would have expected to see. Not based on the way we saw them interacting in the last episode, where they don't go to bed together, where they're very much apart, where they seem almost spiteful of each other. And it's not something I expected.
A small little detail, she was still in the dress that she had worn to dinner, which leads me to believe it's not like, well, I'll just go check on him before I go to bed, but I'm going to take my makeup off and get comfortable. It's almost like she went right to him.
Yep. Yeah. So he's in a stupor. He's a mess. His first words, I believe, are, "You wanted to know if I believe it to be true."
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I don't think we explicitly said those words in the previous scene where Rhaenyra is talking to him when she went to him when he was nearly asleep or when he was sleeping. But she asked him if he believed that prophecy to be true, if it was real. And so you get the sense right off the bat that he's muddled, that he's answering a question from a previous conversation, that maybe he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra this whole time. Did you get that same impression?
100%. Yep.
Okay. I think we're meant to.
I think we are. Yep.
But Alicent hears Aegon.
Correct.
She hears Viserys talking about a dream of a future, something that he dreamed of, maybe. Mm-hmm. Now, he never confirms which Aegon. She asked at least twice. He never affirmed it to be their child, Aegon.
Correct.
She said, "Our son," and he didn't fix it or anything. He just said in response, "To unite the realm against the cold." Our son, to unite the realm against the cold. Mm-hmm. It is you. You are the one. So, Matt, it's hard for me to really fault Alicent too much.
Correct. Because
she's getting these ramblings from a man that she probably hears ramble a lot. But this is a woman that's tried to find purpose in her position here, that she's been forced into this life for so long, looking for meaning, looking for hope for her children, looking for a reason that she's had these children, looking for a reason she's in this at all, right? And now she gets maybe this charge of like, no, it is important. And furthermore, she has the background of this bonfire discussion from episode 3, where he talks to her about his dreams and how he always wanted to be a dreamer. Mm-hmm. And that he wonders if, this is before, well, he's had Aegon now, right? But he's talking to her about a time before he had Aegon that he'd given up on being a dreamer, right? But Aegon is now his kid's name. And now he's saying, oh, maybe this dream is real, right? And so I think she's taking bits and pieces from the past. She's latching onto things she's hearing now. She's trying to put a puzzle together that she doesn't really understand. And she's taking what we all want, which is to be told we're important, right? And so she's latching onto that. I talked for a long time.
I was happy to listen to it because I agree with you. To her, religious ears, this must feel incredible to hear, not only that you're important and that your child is actually important, but, this is a prophecy thing. So for someone who's really steeped herself in religion, and we talked about hiding behind it, maybe this is, I think, even more impactful. And for all those reasons that you mentioned, it's brilliant acting by the actress, Emily Carey.
It's Olivia Cook now.
Emily Carey's the old one. Yes.
Olivia Cook. The young
one. The old one. the old young one. Yeah.
The younger
Right.
who is
Yeah.
now old.
You know what I
from
mean.
Time perspective.
You see her resolve hardening, and it's almost like you almost see it in her face of, well, I was totally content. I was becoming content with the idea of supporting Rhaenyra as queen, but now I can't. It's almost like I was mending this thing, and now there's prophecy involved. My son's going to be something big. I can go with Rhaenyra, even though we just had this great moment together. Things have just changed, and you almost see like, I've got to live up to this, and you see like almost this resolve hardening in her. It acts out pretty beautifully, and it's totally flips everything on its head.
Yeah, I did a poor job stating it earlier, but like the idea that the kingship has to pass down to your eldest born son is a thing that they've believed for a long time, right? And this idea of him having a dream of having a son that would carry that on, and he gave up on that earlier, the whole bonfire discussion. He's now, I think in her mind, he's now saying that he was wrong about giving up on that. Right.
He is.
And so if she doesn't do something, all related to prophecy, like you're saying, if she doesn't do something and make sure that the line follows his firstborn son, this is going to be bad. He's dreamt it. He's a dreamer. He's just confirming to me now that he's a dreamer, like he always thought he was, on his near deathbed. I have to do this.
Exactly. And that's going to suck because I just started mending things with Rhaenyra. And now that's gone.
Oops.
Yep. That's gone.
Yep.
And darn, but I've got to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
That call sucks. That Raven, the next morning Raven, is like, don't come out.
Don't bother coming.
We're having a war instead.
Yep. Because before there was a lot of her that was doing it to protect her son. A lot of it was her still being puppeted by Otto Hightower. We saw that in the last episode. Now this just became real to her.
Yeah. Just, I don't know if it's spoiler, whatever, but this doesn't happen in Fire and Blood.
Nope.
Nothing like this happened in Fire and Blood.
It says he closed his eyes and went to sleep, Viserys, and that was it.
Yeah, maybe we should deal with the last of the scene. He does close his eyes as Alicent leaves. He reaches up as if he's seeing something. It's a wonderful piece of acting by Paddy Considine. And then he says, as the screen goes dark and he closes his eyes, he says, "My love," meant to be Emma.
Mm-hmm.
Just a beautiful scene, a beautiful farewell for this character who, I have my problems with him for sure, but a wonderful performance. I mean, way more fleshed out than we get in Fire and Blood.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the whole series was Emmy worthy, but this episode alone is like, give this man all the awards.
Yeah. Pretty fucking good.
Man.
So I guess, I don't know. Do you have much more on this scene? Do we want to move to Dragons After Dark?
I'm ready to go. Yeah, I think we've said everything we need to say. My last note was, in his mind, he goes out thinking he succeeded. He was able to say everything to his family. He was able to say everything to who he thought was Rhaenyra, who he defended. He accomplished everything he needed to accomplish. And then he says, before he says, "My love," he says, "No more, no more." Almost like there's nothing else left for me to do. I'm going back to Emma, right? I get to see Emma again. And in his mind, he went down thinking he did it. He passed the crucible. He got through the crucible.
That's his crucible.
And he was done. Yeah. And good for him. I'm glad he got to go out thinking that, But it ain't over.
It ain't over. Not for us. Not for those that have to live on.
Right.
All right. Well, for those of you listening that do not want spoilers, turn it off now, because we're going to go into the realm of spoilers, where we'll talk about things that are spoilery in this episode that we didn't discuss, and also what might be coming in episode 9.
Yep. So shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun.
Dragons After Dark.
Okay, Scad. So do I think one of the biggest things for me is Helena's, you know, another prophecy.
The
Feels
Beneath
like
the Boards
mutterings.
thing.
Feels like mutterings. But yes, her saying beast beneath the boards at the dinner scene. Helena, it appears that she's a dreamer. She reminds me a lot of Darren from Duncan Egg, in that these little glimpses. Darren was always haunted by his dreams because they weren't super clear to him, and so they were very easy for him to misinterpret. And that's a big reason of why he fell into alcoholism and everything, is that was the only way he could deal with what he was going through, what was going on in his mind. But and Helena seems to be that way too, where she's constantly having these different dreams. Like Viserys had the one dream, right? Aegon, I don't know if he had more than just the one dream that's brought up here. Dany's had a lot of dreams. Darren seemed to have a lot of dreams, and Helena seems to be one of those. And that's what I'm saying. They need to listen to her. She prophesied Aemon losing his eye. If they would have just given her the time of day on that. She prophesied the conflict between the Greens and the Blacks. No one's listening to her. But the thing is she's not, because they're just like these glimpses of things. She sees the conflict of the Greens versus the Black as sewing going with green and black thread. She doesn't understand the impact and the significance of her own dreams. But so I'm being kind of tongue in cheek saying they just need to listen to her. But it appears that she's a dreamer in line with these others.
It appears that she is. Reminds me of, do you remember little, very small thing? Tiora Toland. House Toland. She in Dorne. Actually, I think it's in Winds of Winter, actually. So it's even beyond what we've actually published. But Arianne goes to Ghost Hill on her way up to try to hook up with not hook up in the sexual sense,
but yes,
to meet up with
Aegon
the Sixth. And Tiora is there, and she dreams they were dancing in my dream, and everywhere the dragons danced, the people died. And she's just kind of dismissed. She's she's short, plump, and shy, and seemed to have prophetic dreams. So I don't know. It reminded me of Tiora a little bit, but yeah, I think she definitely has them.
Nice.
Tiora Toland, of course, not a Targaryen. Unless, I mean, lots of people could be Targaryens.
The blood.
If you listen to my blood stuff that I talk about all the time, but not traditionally a Targaryen. But I think she definitely is. I think they could definitely solve a lot of problems by listening to her.
Not in the books. This is a wrinkle that is not present in the books, but I think it adds some interest to the character. It certainly makes us. They want us to really love Helena, probably to make Blood and Cheese more impactful. Unfortunately, do you think that's what's being referred to by beasts beneath the boards? That seems to be a common interpretation.
I don't know what that means, beneath the boards. I don't feel like Blood and Cheese came up through boards. I feel like they came through a secret passage of some kind.
But that could still be like beneath the boards, means like underground.
Under the floor,
like maybe. Tunnels. Yeah. Cheese was a rat catcher before. Rats beneath the boards. I don't know. That could be reach.
I tend to think of it more of spies of some kind, but I didn't. But as usual, Matt, with prophecy, I don't put a whole lot of thought into it.
It could be Massaria, it could be Laris, referring to them, that they're constantly being watched.
Yes. I'm gonna play these games they want me to play by trying to uncover the mystery. Just give me the book and tell me what the mystery is.
Give it whatever it is. Hey, you sound like me.
I do, to some degree. But I believe she is prophetic. I believe that, and I like the addition. it's one of the great things about the way they've handled House of the Dragons. They can kind of add these little things, and this isn't so little a thing. What they're really doing with Viserys having maybe dreams and saying that there are dreamers in this house is saying there's more than just Diana and what was it, a Daenerys? Or is it a
Danny's.
Daenerys? Thank you. Jeez, you got
Mix
me this
between
time.
the two.
Daenerys and Daenerys, as I would say it, Daenerys and Daeron, that there, and Rhaegar perhaps, that there are more dreamers than just those, right? And that they're scattered throughout the house, and that Helena is just one more.
And how tragic is it that they're not
listened to,
that they're not listened to, or that encouraged to develop those skills, or like even recognized that, oh, we've got a dreamer here. They're so focused on like Dragon Rider, that it's like, no, there's this additional skill that some Targaryens have. Yeah, there's this additional skill that maybe we should recognize and encourage and develop because it could benefit us.
Rhaegar was so bookish, blah, so terrible, blah. Well, maybe pursuing fucking
alert.
knowledge might help you guys.
With nerd alert.
You guys have a leg up on everybody else because you dream the future and you don't even use that knowledge.
Yeah, like they should be having little classes on these, like interpretation of dreams or something. And
as Viserys says in episode 3, I think at the bonfire, what power is a dragon when you can dream the future?
Exactly.
Paraphrased. I'm sure I screwed it up.
Exactly.
Paraphrased.
Exactly.
So I want to talk prophecy, Matt.
Okay.
What do you think about this prophecy? We're late. We've been talking for a long time. This
was
a good episode. This is my favorite episode. So, we're talking about it, I guess.
Mine too.
What do you think about this prophecy stuff?
I think prophecy is a way to force characters to act and exercise their agency. So I see prophecy as a background catalyst to action by characters, which is really what I want to see. I want to see characters responding to things. I want to see them being forced to exercise their agency and make choices. And sometimes those choices are wrong and sometimes they're right, but that's really what I want to see. So the prophecy stuff is not super interesting, decoding it and all of that. I just want to see what it does to the characters and what they do with it.
Yeah. Okay. I really like that answer. I mean, as a means to how it relates to the behaviors, the choices characters end up making, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Which comes from their interpretations and such.
It feels like a cop-out a little bit that they've used the prophecy to make Alicent act the way they have. Almost, I don't want to use the term bait and switch exactly, but they have this wonderful scene where they unite everybody, and then they just Deus Ex Machina this prophecy in here to turn Alicent around on a dime. And it's like Alicent had all sorts of reasons before this episode to want to press her claim, to want to press her kids' claim. And I don't know, it feels like we've just kind of gone around in circles a little bit, and we've used prophecy to get out of it. I don't like it. I feel like, I think it was the first episode where we learned about the Song of Ice and Fire and the dagger, which, everyone knows I hate the dagger, but that we learned about the prophecy in general. And I was like, yes, Aegon knows, and it goes all the way back, and it's going to echo through the time, and so cool. And, we were right, and Joe Magician was right, and other people were right, and, really cool stuff. But when they just use it to kind of dangle a carrot in front of characters to get the plot to go a certain direction, I don't love it, man. It felt cheap to me.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I disagree. I loved it. Okay. I thought that we were given so many reasons to see Alicent softening on this whole idea. And, with the way Aegon's acting and all of this stuff of being like, oh, maybe this isn't really worth fighting for, that we really needed something to hit her, to make her, decide, I'm willing to go to war over this. I'm willing to go hard. And So that worked for me. I understand what you're saying, especially with the excitement surrounding the reveal of this prophecy. And I don't know how else it'll come into it. And maybe too, I'm used to things being turned on their heads. I watch shows like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, where it's like everything's okay, and then 5 minutes later, everything falls apart.
I think that's pretty normal for TV, I guess. But I guess it was a pretty quick turnaround for
Yeah,
the,
literally one
it was
scene.
2 minutes,
Yeah,
like
we got the Messiah scene like wedged in there,
yes,
and then
right.
it was that. It was very quick.
I guess I don't know. I would have liked to see it. I would have liked to see it play out a little bit differently.
That's fine.
But I'm not sure I have a better way, I guess, but it felt a little bit forced. I mean, what happens when she writes that letter? Sorry, Boo, don't come back. War instead. Smiley.
I think that's going to be delicious.
What? But okay, but why not? Like, hey, this happened. We came to an agreement. I got this weird message from Viserys, and now he's dead. Can we talk about this? Because it was pretty unclear.
Yeah, maybe.
Why wouldn't they hash this out to some degree?
We could get that.
Come to
I don't think we will, but we could.
It feels like they're assuming a lot of things wouldn't happen to make this real. Mm-hmm. Alicent's really gonna. I mean, I get that she's getting some sort of divine inspiration from this, that she's important, but like,
right?
Wouldn't she? When she says no, we're doing our own thing, and Rhaenyra's like, hold on, what happened? Would she just say, nah, I don't want to explain it? Or would she say, he started talking about this prophecy about Aegon and about this stuff, and wouldn't Rhaenyra be like, oh yeah, I have some of that, let's share notes, and like they could come to some. It feels like this wouldn't just go down like, nah, you're out now. Ooh. It feels like they'd have some sort of conversation about this.
Well, you're kind of acting like it already happened and it hasn't yet. I mean, we don't know what the fallout's gonna be.
We're in the spoiler section now, Matt. We know what's gonna happen.
The thought that just came to me is maybe they do get together and talk about it, and this is where the conflict about the kids being named Aegon comes in and everything, and Rhaenyra talking about, this is what he told me, and she's like, well, I heard Aegon, and so
it's not about either of their Aegons, though. It's about the original Aegon, and Rhaenyra can tell her that.
And that's what Rhaenyra will say, and Alicent will go, no, I'm pretty sure he's talking about my Aegon. And butt heads, and there it goes.
Man, it just feels okay.
I like it. You don't. That's cool.
I don't. I really don't. It's okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
Do you have more stuff, or should we move on to what happens in episode 9?
Just tiny little things. In the yard, we get a look at Arik and Eric Cargyle fighting, which I think is just a little taste of what we're going to see later, with a very dramatic moment of the two of them basically dying at each other's hands.
Is that how you say those names? I've always just said Eric and Eric. I thought that was the joke.
I think in the show even Alicent says, oh, Sir Eric. And he's like, actually, I'm Sir Eric. Okay. She actually says it that way.
But it's like, well, that's a joke in itself.
Right.
She said the same thing.
Yeah. It's like, that's what she just said.
Do they always just correct whoever says their name?
Probably.
You got it wrong. It's Eric.
It probably really was Eric, and he was just saying that.
Yeah.
And then maybe just the couple other little things. Lord Caswell's executed for staying loyal to Rhaenyra. Viserys is a name fit for a king.
Mm-hmm.
The baby Viserys does become the king.
King. He does. Yep. Yeah, Caswell was one that swore fealty in the beginning to Rhaenyra. He was the one that said, "Hey, can I help you?" on the steps, and she said, "Maybe later, my lord." And he's the one that greeted her on the steps in this episode. So they're kind of using him, but spoiler, he gets beheaded for loyalty to Rhaenyra.
Probably a very dramatic beheading scene they're setting up.
Doesn't go well.
And then the Beesbury kind of him being all senile and everything. I think that's,
Yeah.
and this will be a nice segue into what will happen in episode 8, probably to make him seem even more out of it when he's the only one to speak up for Rhaenyra next episode. Say, oh, that's old just crazy Lyman Beesbury.
Yeah. So Fire and Blood has, let's move into that. Fire and Blood has two kind of ways that's handled. One says that Kristen Cole sits Lyman Beesbury back down as he's claiming that they're committing treason, essentially, and opens his throat. And other people say that he was just grabbed and taken to the black cells and died there. You think he's going to be murdered? Actually, I think there's a third account. One says that they throw him out the window.
Yeah, he's thrown out the window. Yeah.
3 accounts.
If I'm just going for feel of House of the Dragon, I think the throat scene would happen.
Yeah, I agree. Throwing out the window defenestrating seems too dramatic almost.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go for the throat scene.
Sounds
okay.
Right.
Right. Yep.
I think Cole is going to murder Westerling and take the head, because I think Westerling's loyal to Rhaenyra.
He's still alive too.
And yeah, he's long gone in Fire and Blood by now. But I feel like that's going to be a Beesbury-like moment where he's like, nah, man, traitors die. And I don't know if they'll have a big battle about it or whether he'll just kind of jab him under the armpit and kill him or what. But I think it's going to happen.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. My idea for him was a little different. They make a big deal in Fire and Blood about how 2 Kingsguard members stay with Rhaenyra and go with her to Dragonstone. Then later she's joined by a Cargyle. But it's a Darklyn and a Marbrand. But we haven't really gotten to know any of those guys, so we really don't have any connection. I wonder if they'll replace one of those characters with Westerling. They've kept him alive this long. I think we've predicted in like 3 of our episodes that he'll die by the next episode and Kristen Cole will take over. But
in Fire and Blood, I think the Darklyn is the one that steals the crown.
Correct. Yeah.
And then goes to join her on Dragonstone, right?
And this one they could be
Maybe
replacing those guys with Westerling. He goes and that keeps his character around. He becomes almost kind of like a Barristan Selmy type old wizened warrior / counselor for at least a little bit, and then he dies.
I like your answer better. I thought it would be a Game of Thronesy battle way to throw some action into this episode that I think is going to be quite dry. I wonder if we're going to get, Matt, Green Council episode 9, Black Council episode 10.
Maybe.
And that we'll get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it ends with like emissaries being sent in episode 10 from both sides.
Right. To each other. I like that.
I've been saying all season, I don't know what they're going to do with the rest of the time, because 2 episodes, what are they going to end on? What do you think they're going to end on in this series, Matt?
In the series or the season?
Sorry, season.
Season? Okay. My prediction, I put some thought into this. I think they could condense it all. So episode 9 is council stuff. Episode 10, I think the big event will be Aemond killing Luke.
I agree. I think that's how it'll end.
The Storm's End scene.
I mean, we might get like a little scene after of like they receive word and a reaction or something.
Right.
And maybe even
maybe even
Daemon saying
going to Massaria and
a prince for a prince, or what's the line? That's not the line. What's the line? A son for a son. A son for a son, I think.
Yeah, something along those lines.
A son for a son.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking is Luke is killed by Aemon. That's the big action of season 10. And then the cliffhanger that they leave you on is Daemon and going to Massaria.
Oh, he doesn't even say anything. That. Maybe he doesn't say anything. It's just him looking at her, and it's like something's gonna happen, but you don't know what.
Right. But I think even the son for a son thing could be impactful to make viewers go, oh, who are they gonna kill next? Yeah. That's my prediction.
It's a good prediction. I think I agree. Luke's death in general. Sorry, everybody that wanted Luke to live. He doesn't.
Nope.
He's basically, other than Beesbury, he's basically like the first blood. First blood that matters, anyway, I guess. So yeah, I think that's a good guess. Aegon, I think, is going to get crowned at the end of episode 9 after the
Mm-hmm.
Green Council preparation.
Yep. I think they even showed in the scenes for the next episode, they show a dart up, like a cobalt looking crown being brought out.
Yes.
Which I assume would be Aegon the
Aegon's
Conqueror's crown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I wonder if kind of like a Feast for Crows, Dance with Dragons kind of thing, if we don't even see Dragonstone in
Rhaenyra?
episode 9.
Oh, interesting, Scab.
Or like the very end of it, right? Like maybe the Ravens arrive, or Westerling arrives with the news or something at the very end of 9 to set up 10. But then we get a mostly green council and rounding up allies and stuff, a discussion on the green side, and then we get a similar thing in 10. And then the last 15 minutes maybe are the emissaries going and having the whole scene at Storm's End.
Yeah, I like it.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Well, there we are.
Here we are.
I think this was a long episode. Yeah.
It's 3 hours, my man. At this point.
Here we go, brother.
Here we go. Remember when we wanted to do it in 45 minutes?
Sweet summer children.
Sweet summer children.
I was really touched by a post Patty Considine made, and I think I put it on Twitter, but it's made its rounds, talking about Viserys' death. And I'd like to share that with everyone for my sign-off tonight. I liked it so much. He says, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll kind of skip around. It is a Instagram post. He's talking about he's so grateful. He'd like to thank the creators of the show, I'm assuming, for allowing me the freedom to make Viserys my own. I've never loved a character so much. I want to give massive love and respect to at Brooksian, which is the lady that played Emma.
Yep.
Who came in only for a few days, but changed the course of my character with her brilliant performance and commitment to the work. The impact stayed with me until my final improvised words. So, she unlocked the missing piece of the puzzle for me and allowed my story to come full circle. From the moment she dies, so does Viserys. It was a love story. That's the secret I carried with me. As sick as Viserys gets, he never himself demands any cure. He quietly accepts his suffering, never forgiving himself for putting his beloved wife through such torture in her final moments. Viserys was a gift. I'm so honored he found me. Now that was just a touching look at an actor just falling in love with his character and really just giving his all to it. So that's my sign off.
And I hate to do it, but I have to undercut your sign off. I didn't get to do my SCAD rant, and I won't. I'll save it for next episode.
Oh, you didn't do it?
No, I did not. But my sign off today will be, maybe that character died when Emma did, but he still forced Alicent into a marriage she didn't want, into sex she didn't want, and neglected kids he didn't want, by continuing to have actions that apparently his character didn't care about and didn't want to live through. And so he can say all that, and he can believe that his character died when Emma did. But his character didn't die. His character continued on, had actions. Those actions had repercussions, and those repercussions ruined the realm.
This could turn into a whole discussion, but we're at the end. So there you go. You got the two sides to it, and that can be it.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, good night.